What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 8 Co-Chapter 151, The Battle of the Three Emperors. HP Slim Desktop S01PF 3003 HK Dian Now Dao Zhuang HPHK, 5299 Hong Kong dollars D13 Di Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Wind. Luo Te frowned. How is it possible? How can Big Mom still be alive? He remembered that he clearly sensed the dissipation of Big Mom's soul power last time, and it was obvious that she was dead. But how to explain the figure in front of him? But before he could think about it, a huge sword energy shockwave attacked him. It came in front of him in the blink of an eye. He saw this move at a glance, which was obviously Big Mom's famous sword skill, Elbaf's Spear Widewo. Without thinking too much, he clenched his hands in the air, and an electromagnetic knife appeared in each hand, crossed in front of his chest, and blocked this sword energy. But this shockwave was so strong that it directly knocked Luo Te dozens of meters away before he stopped. When the sword energy dissipated, a huge canyon crack appeared where it passed. Luo Te couldn't help shaking his sore arms. Looking at the fat figure riding Zeus slowly descending, "Old woman, you dare to come to me again? It seems that the lesson I taught you last time was not enough." At this time on the Health Island nearby, husband, Hancock naturally sensed that 2 emperors appeared on Minsheng Island. She stood up and prepared to help Luo Te. Linger stretched out her hand to stop Hancock. "Sister Hancock, don't worry, Captain Luo Te will be fine. And facing 2 long-established 4 emperors, we can only cause trouble when we go up." Nami also said on the side. "Yes, Sister Hancock, it's not Kaido and Auntie who teamed up to deal with Luo Te. Don't worry, we have to have confidence in Luo Te." Hancock also sensed it and nodded slightly. "If they dare to do anything to my husband, I will definitely not let them go." Big Mom saw that her move was easily blocked by Luo Te, but she was not surprised at all. "Luo Te boy, this time I will settle all the old and new grudges with you." However, Kaido stood up from the ruins at the side, covered in dust, looking particularly embarrassed. Obviously, Big Mom's attack just now also affected him. He stared at the fat figure with a ferocious expression. Suddenly, his pupils shrank sharply. This figure turned out to be Sha Luo Te Linlin, who had just died a month ago. Looking at her so lively, although her momentum was not as good as before, it was certain that she was Big Mom herself. He felt a little strange now, whether from the reports or from the expressions of Katakuri and other children. He was sure that Big Mom must have died once, but why did she come back to life this time? No matter how you look at it, it feels like a corpse. Did Luo Te reach a deal with the Big Mom pirates? Was it just a fake death? He remembered that when he heard that Big Mom was dead, he felt sad for the old woman for a while, but the old woman attacked him just after she was resurrected. How could a man endure this? The little bit of sadness in his heart was completely wiped out. He shouted angrily, "FKU, old woman, do you want to die? Lousy helped you to get revenge, and this is how you treat your benefactor?" Big Mom laughed angrily. "UTM, how did you treat my children after I left? And UTM said you were helping me, don't TM be so hypocritical." The first thing she did after her resurrection was to rush back to Cake Island. Along the way, she saw that many of her islands were in the midst of war. It was certain that after her death, there would be pirates who would take advantage of the situation to rob their Big Mom pirates' resources, but she didn't expect them to be so blatant. When she arrived at Cake Island, the once prosperous and crowded Cake City had become a ruin that no one cared about. For a moment, she regretted provoking Luo Te's gang, but she hated Luo Te more. If it weren't for Luo Te, their Big Mom pirates would still be one of the most powerful pirate groups in the world. Wan Guo is still a prosperous scene with thousands of people coming to the court. Today, Cake Island is deserted and has become a joke in the entire pirate world. She knew that the Big Mom pirates had become a lost dog. Although they were not shouted at by everyone, they did not have a good life. Walking into the ruins of Cake Island, she saw only a few children left behind, cleaning up the ruins. Moreover, she did not see Katakuri and others on the way here, and did not sense their presence in observation hockey. After asking, she found out that Katakuri and others had been forcibly taken under Kaido's command, and the Big Mom pirates had also become a vassal of the Beast's pirates. This was clearly taking advantage of the situation. At that moment, her hatred for Kaido far exceeded Luo Te. She heard that Kaido had come to Luo Te's country, so she rushed here without stopping, just in time to deal with these 2 people at the same time. Kaido got angry instantly after hearing Big Mom's insults. "What? Lousy GNN, don't be so ungrateful. If it weren't for Lousy, all your children would have died, and your territory would have been wiped out." Big Mom was so angry that her swimming ring was shaking wildly. "Don't talk about your selfish desires so righteously. Even if Uranus Lousy came today, you and Luo Te would have to die." Luo Te watched Kaido and Big Mom quarreling, and guessed the reason for a while. "I don't care about the grudges between you. Since you came to Shaw Country on your own initiative today, this is where you will be buried." Big Mom was also furious when she heard Luo Te say this. Everything he has now is caused by the young man in front of him. "Shut up, you yellow-haired boy. Even if you take people to repair my Wan Guo now, you must die today." Luo Te's mouth curved. He didn't expect that the four emperors, who were usually high and mighty, would curse even more harshly than the Blue Star in his previous life after breaking the defense. Since the two people in front of him were on his must-kill list, and they had already come to his territory, he would leave them all behind. In fact, it might be a bit difficult for him to deal with four emperors at the same time with his strength, but he had to try. Thinking of this, Luo Te appeared in front of Kaido with an electromagnetic teleportation. He raised his hand and chopped Kaido's head with a knife. Kaido was still angry at first, and didn't expect Luo Te to attack him directly. In a hurry, he raised his hand to block the mace above his head. Bang! The electromagnetic knife chopped on the mace, and the huge force directly made the mace hit Kaido's neck, and Kaido was smashed into the ground. However, Luo Te did not stop, and appeared in front of Big Mom in an instant. Concentrating Conqueror's Haki on his right foot, he turned around and kicked Big Mom, who was still standing on Zeus, away. Then the figure appeared behind Big Mom again, and extended the electromagnetic knife in his hand at a very fast speed, piercing Big Mom's shoulder in just a moment. Chapter 152. Big Mom and Kaido join forces. Seeing this, Luo Te frowned. He had an illusion. Big Mom had become weaker than the last battle. Otherwise, she would not have been penetrated so easily by the electromagnetic knife. Could this have something to do with his resurrection? But he did not pity Big Mom. Such a person deserved death. However, Big Mom ignored the injuries on her body and stretched out her hand to the air. Prometheus. A ball of fiercely burning flame nodded at her. Hi, Mom. Stolen fire. Prometheus rushed directly towards Luo Te. Is this old woman crazy? Injury for injury? Luo Te did not think about it anymore, and the electromagnetic flash goddess disappeared on the spot. Bang! As Prometheus hit the place where Luo Te had just stood, the huge figure of Big Mom also fell to the ground. Luo Te stood aside panting, obviously a little exhausted. MD. Damn Luo Te, let me show you what the real four emperors are. As Kaido's voice sounded, a blue dragon soared from the ruins. Looking at the huge blue dragon in front of him, Luo Te was shocked. He didn't expect the dragon to be so huge. It was even bigger than this Minshang Island. The dragon's body was winding and circling, with flames lingering below it. The blue scales shone with mysterious light in the sun, containing endless power. I didn't feel anything when reading the original work. Only when you really face it can you feel the oppression of this dragon. If an ordinary person gets such a nearly invincible fantasy beast devil fruit, he can become a top-tier strongman. What's more, Kaido Conqueror's Haki and physique have reached the top level. It is worthy of being called the strongest pirate on land, sea and air. When ordinary people see such a dragon, I'm afraid they don't even have the courage to stand in front of him. The blue dragon's mouth gradually turned red, and then it opened its mouth. Suddenly, a stream of hot air sprayed from the dragon's mouth towards Luo Te. The diameter of the hot breath became very large after leaving the dragon's mouth, and it was estimated to be tens of meters. Luo Te moved to the side nearly 100 meters in an instant. Although he was more than 10 meters away from the hot breath still made him feel as if he was in the heat of lava. This hot breath was like a violent fire dragon, roaring towards the end of the sky at an astonishing speed. Wherever it passed, it was indestructible, as easy as cutting tofu with a knife. It directly melted through a huge stone mountain, and a large hole with a diameter of tens of meters appeared on the top of the mountain in an instant, like the eye of the earth. Shocking. Seeing that the direction of the hot breath attack was towards the outside of the main island of Sha Country, Luo Te breathed a sigh of relief. If such a powerful attack was allowed to pass through Sha Country, the casualties would be immeasurable. Even if he was himself, it would be impossible to completely resist such an attack head-on. While Luo Te was thinking, he sensed Big Mom attacking him in his super heart net. Big Mom grabbed Zeus and shouted, "Thunderbolt!" Zeus burst into countless blue-purple lightning, and then a horizontal lightning bolt shot towards Luo Te at a speed close to the speed of light. Luo Te could only withstand this lightning bolt for a while. The lightning bolt hit Luo Te's body and caused a violent explosion. In an instant, countless lightning bolts surged wildly at Luo Te's location. Until the lightning dissipated, a huge bottomless pit appeared on the ground. Mom, take care of one." Big Mom was obviously very satisfied with her attack. Then she turned to look at the blue dragon. "It's your turn, Kaido." The dragon stared at Big Mom with two white air coming out of its nostrils. Old woman, what did you say?" But before the two of them started fighting, Luo Te appeared in front of Big Mom and knocked her out with just one punch. Then he jumped on the top of the dragon's head, and with a kick wrapped around Conqueror's Haki, he smashed the dragon's head into the ground again. Big Mom climbed up, staring at Luo Te with a torch-like gaze, with a look of disbelief. "How is it possible? My attack just now clearly hit you. You can't still stand up." Luo Te patted the dust on the clothes in front of him and spread his hands. "I forgot to tell you that electric shock doesn't work on me." "What?" Hearing this, Big Mom was not calm, because electric shock accounted for almost 1/3 of her attack methods. If the electric shock doesn't work, then there will be no chips to defeat Luo Te. Kaido lifted the dragon head from the ground and shook his dizzy head. He stared at Luo Te. He didn't expect that there would be such a powerful person in this world. It was completely beyond his cognition. Luo Te gave him the feeling of his former Captain Rocks. Hey, Lin Lin, should we join forces to destroy this troublemaker first and then settle the grudge between us? Big Mom didn't rush to answer after hearing this, but thought about it. Judging from the current situation, the two of them joining forces is undoubtedly the best solution. Mom, Kaido boy. Then do as you say, but our alliance is limited to now. Woo la la la, then now, Kaido responded with a big laugh. Seeing the two people forming an alliance in front of him, Luo Te's heart also rarely showed a ripple. Just ask if there is almost no one in the world who can fight 4 emperors at the same time. However, this made him crazy. He hooked his fingers at the two and said, ha 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 ha, big fat woman, stinky long worm. You two come together, I am Luo Te, what fear? As he spoke, he was full of momentum, and all the gravel around him was shaken into powder. Big Mom and Kaido were only slightly surprised by Luo Te's strength, and they regained their minds in an instant. Bad wind. Kaido opened his dragon mouth and immediately spit out a large number of blue and white wind blades from his mouth to attack Luo Te. Luo Te shook his head and complained in his heart, why do we have to do these useless things in this level of battle? For a while, Luo Te's figure was like a fish swimming in the water, and all the wind blades just passed by. Big Mom was not idle either. He held Napoleon in his hand and passed it through Prometheus' body, and instantly turned into a long sword that burned violently. He swung the sword at Luo Te fiercely. Luo Te's heart was alarmed, and he quickly teleported to 10 meters away. Big Mom's sword energy passed through his nose and flew behind him, cutting off half of a distant mountain. At this moment, several wind blades hit his body, and he was dragged back dozens of meters by the powerful force. Hiss, it hurts. Luo Te touched the place where he was hit by the wind blade, and couldn't help but pull the corner of his mouth. It's rude not to return the favor. Luo Te flew in the air, stretched out his hand and grasped it in the air. 2 blue-purple spears appeared in his hands, and he threw them towards Kaido and Big Mom. Under the blessing of electromagnetic force, the 2 spears approached the 2 people at almost sub-light speed. Puff, puff, one of the spears pierced deeply into the front shoulder of the blue dragon. Although Big Mom dodged to the side, her left arm was still pierced by the spear. Ah! Kaido turned back into human form, and a horrifying hole appeared on his left shoulder. However, neither of them bled, and the wound was in a burnt state. Chapter 153. Kaido, Big Mom escaped. Damn Luo Te brat. What a difficult ability. For a moment, Kaido and Big Mom's expressions became quite solemn. Originally, they still took into account the 4 emperors' fates. Now it seems that if they care too much about face, they may really be left on the island by Luo Te. Big Mom and Kaido looked at each other and saw the meaning in each other's eyes. The two stood side by side at this time. Kaido clenched the mace with his right hand and condensed Conqueror's haki on it. Suddenly, blue-purple haki rushed up from the mace. Big Mom also clenched Napoleon and condensed Conqueror's haki on it, and purple-red haki lingered around her. The 2 haki merged with each other, turned blood-red, and spread to the surroundings. In an instant, the earth and the sky were dyed into dazzling scarlet. Hey, isn't this too outrageous? Luo Te felt that the haki of the 2 people at this time had been perfectly fused together. The 2 were already extremely powerful. If they were to combine their current momentum, he felt that he would not be able to fight them head-on. The momentum created a hurricane, blowing Luo Te's t-shirt. He was secretly shocked. With such momentum alone, pirates with a bounty of less than 500 million might not even be able to move. ... And at this time, the Health Island. Hey, what kind of momentum is this? How can it be so strong? It feels stronger than Luo Te's momentum. Zoro squeezed the flowing light tightly, and cold sweat flowed down his temples. Luo was trembling all over at this time. Although they were so far apart, the momentum coming over made him feel uncomfortable. It was hard for him to imagine what was happening on the island at this time. Hancock said at this time, is this a combined attack skill of Kaido and Big Mom? No, I want to help my husband. She knew that in the giant country Elbaf had a combined attack skill called Sea Domination, so she was now very sure that this was a combined attack of Big Mom and Kaido. Ling shook her head. Sister Hancock, you have to believe in Lord Luo Te. No one in this world can make him fail. There is such a strong momentum that you and I cannot resist. Going there now will only distract Luo Te. Nami nodded. Sister Hancock, if we go up, it will only cause trouble for Luo Te. We just need to quietly protect Xiaoguo for him. It's okay. Luo Te is very super this week. Frankie did not show any worry at all. He believed in Luo Te unconditionally. Minshang Island. Kaido. Your waist and legs are not old yet, old woman. Big Mom. Who are you talking to, brat? Seeing that the momentum has almost gathered, the two shouted in unison, Ba hai. The two waved their weapons at Luo Te at the same time. In an instant, 2 giant sword chi wrapped with red and black lightning entangled each other in the air, and finally merged into a giant sword chi with a diameter of nearly 100 meters.
Luo Te's pupils shrank slightly. He felt that there was a huge force to fix himself in place and prevent him from leaving. With a tremor of his whole body, he shook off the restraint. Looking at the direction of the sword energy attack, the main island of Sha country is behind him, and he cannot retreat. He condensed Conqueror's Haki and Armament Haki on the flip-flops, raised his foot and met this huge attack. Bang! Suddenly, a powerful force was transmitted from the flip-flops to Luo Te's whole body, and his left foot kept sliding back. If it weren't for his strong physique, this attack might have vaporized him directly. Seeing that the goal had been achieved, Luo Te appeared 200 meters away with an electromagnetic teleportation. And this huge combined attack deviated from the original trajectory and shot towards the sky, and actually directly punched a big hole in the sky. The ground it passed by also turned directly into lava. What is this? Naturally, everyone on the Health Island saw such an amazing sword energy, and they all worried about Luo Te for a while. Hancock held her skirt tightly with both hands. If it weren't for her observation Haki that Luo Te was fine, she would have appeared on Minsheng Island. Escaped. What a strong opponent. Kaido couldn't help but sigh when he saw Luo Te's move. What have you done to my island? Luo Te looked at the devastated Minsheng Island and was furious.
He flashed in front of Kaido and slammed his flip-flops on his face. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and Kaido was kicked dozens of meters away.
Mom, you really think I don't exist, right? Big Mom said, and then mentioned Napoleon and chopped at Luo Te. Luo Te could only raise his hand to block the knife. The blade passed over Luo Te's arm, sparking sparks. Big Mom's shocked fat face was reflected in the firelight. Have you forgotten how you died? Luo Te looked quite indifferent. Mom, don't think that you are so capable just because I was careless and defeated you before. After the voice fell, Big Mom reached out and grabbed Prometheus in her hand. Fire from the sky. Luo Te concentrated the electromagnetic force on his right hand, and pierced the fiercely burning flame with just one punch.
Mom, it hurts. For a moment, the flame was extinguished directly as if it was thrown into the water. When Big Mom saw this scene, she felt it slightly and clearly realized that Prometheus's soul power was so weak that it could hardly support the flame.
For a moment, she was stunned. This was something she had never encountered before. Because this was the power of her soul fruit, there was almost no power that could attack it except her own soul power.
I didn't expect Luo Te to have the power to deal with her soul power. Hey, old woman, are you beaten silly? At this time, Kaido's voice sounded from behind Big Mom. Big Mom was startled, and Luo Te almost ruined her mind. She grinned, Mom, Luo Te, no matter what, you must die today. She clenched the Napoleon in her hand and attacked Luo Te again. Luo Te appeared on the side in an instant, his face a little pale. Kaido wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and stared at Luo Te. Wow, Luo Te. I have to say that you are really the strongest young man I have ever seen. No one, even rocks of the same period, can't be compared with you. But so what? No one in this world can escape from the joint efforts of the 4 emperors. You can say your last words now. Luo Te laughed when he heard it. You are just 2 people who sit in the well and look at the sky. In your shallow cognition, is the world only that big? Ridiculous, Nani? Kaido and Big Mom were angry when they heard this, and both rushed towards Luo Te. Bang, 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 bang. For a moment, the figures of the 3 people flashed on the island.
The entire island also fell apart. That's it. Tickling me is not enough. Luo Te wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at the 2 people opposite. Kaido and Big Mom were also covered in blood at this time, and their faces were extremely pale. All 3 were injured. At present, Luo Te was less injured.
The 2 looked at Luo Te, and they also sensed that Luo Te was not as seriously injured as them, and a faint sense of powerlessness rose in their hearts. Kaido boy, I just resurrected with the soul fruit, and my strength has not recovered yet. And now we have been away from our territory for a long time, Whitebeard and Red Hair May. The 2 looked at each other, nodded, and flew directly into the distance. Chapter 154, Marine Meeting, Luo Te. Husband. Sensing that the battle on Minsheng Island had stopped, Zoro and others came to Luo Te. Hancock threw himself into Luo Te's arms. Luo Te was exhausted and injured, and was thrown to the ground by Hancock. He couldn't help but bleed from the corner of his mouth. Hancock was scared enough to see this, and he touched Luo Te's body here and there. He looked a little anxious. Husband, what's wrong with you? Luo Te reached out and rubbed his head. I'm fine. He gently pushed Hancock away and stood up slowly. Luo Te, you are injured. Linger ran up and took Luo Te's hand and looked up and down at the embarrassed Luo Te. Nami also ran to Luo Te, with a worried look on her face. Luo Te's eyes swept across everyone's faces, and everyone's face was full of concern. Shaking his head. Ha, it's okay, it's just a bit of consumption. Zoro was a little shocked to see Luo Te like this. This was the only time he saw Luo Te injured so badly. But for now, it was still within the acceptable range. The news of the 3 emperors' battle in Sha country spread like wildfire and spread directly throughout the entire pirate world. One headline was, "Shocked, defeat Kaido and Big Mom to become the new strongest. Nani? When did we lose to Luo Te together? Kaido tore the newspaper into pieces in anger before he finished reading the report. What newspaper published this? Find him for me, I want them to disappear from this world. He didn't expect the news to spread so quickly. What happened 2 days ago has been reported and spread throughout the entire pirate world. What made him even more angry was that this report exaggerated how powerful Luo Te was, and almost defeated him and Big Mom's combination with a crushing attitude. They even exaggeratedly said that they were beaten to a bloody mess and fled. Admittedly, he felt that his strength was not as good as Luo Te, but he was not so strong that Luo Te beat the 2 four emperors to flee. This news was quite unfavorable to his Beast's pirates. Those small pirate groups that did not originally belong to the Kaido of the Beast's pirates have already intended to leave. Similarly, some organizations and societies that originally had cooperative relations with them have already had the intention to end the cooperation. Paramecia. Go find Morgans for me. When Big Mom saw this report, her eyes locked on the big words, World News Agency, in the lower right corner, and she was also very angry. Paramecia wiped the sweat from his forehead. He felt that facing his mother at this time was like an attack of bulimia. Mom, I have asked them to find it. He could only answer like this. He had no confidence in finding Morgan's lair. Everyone knows that it is even harder to find Morgan's residence than to find a One Piece in this world. At this time, the Big Mom pirates are in a more difficult situation than the Kaido pirates. Originally, when the news of Big Mom's death came out, a large number of partners had already cut off their business with him. In addition, a large number of resources were plundered. The arrival of this report is undoubtedly worse than before. It can be said that in the New World, or even in the entire pirate world, there is no place for the Big Mom pirates. Bang! What on earth does this Luo Te want to do? The desk in front of Sengoku was shaken by the slap. Since Luo Te went to sea until now, almost all the news headlines are about him, and almost every time it is an earth-shaking event. At the same time, every action of his has touched the heartstrings of the entire pirate world. Sengoku no longer believes that this Luo Te just wants to become a pirate king. But the emperor is far away, Luo Te is now in the New World, and they can't reach him at all. Zzzzz, Garp, what time is it? You can still sleep. Sengoku snatched the senbei from the sleeping Garp's arms and poured it into his mouth. Pop, as the snot bubble burst, Garp slowly woke up. Nani? Bastard Sengoku. My senbei.
Sengoku chewed the senbei and shouted angrily, what senbei? Now we have to discuss a strategy against Luo Te. Staff Officer Crane was holding the bounty order and looked worried. Who are you? It feels like you are not from this world, as if you suddenly came to this world.
What are you going to do? Your behavior is not like that of an ordinary pirate. Do you want to rule the world? Such a young man, now has such strength, the future achievements will be limitless. She said. We can only worry now. Luo Te is doing well in New World. There is no land of marine there.
Sengoku nodded when he heard Crane's words. It's okay if Luo Te just stays in New World, but I'm afraid that he will occupy the paradise after unifying New World, and then we will lose the entire Grand Line. Quote. Garp echoed at this time. That is the territory of the 4 emperors. If we Marines enter rashly, the 4 emperors, who were originally enemies of each other, are likely to unite to deal with their common enemy. Quote. Sengoku's eyes lit up when he heard Garp's words. I have an idea. Staff Officer Crane said, that's the territory of the 4 emperors. Then she raised her eyebrows. Do you want to? Sengoku nodded. Yes, that's it.
Garp touched his head and looked at the two of them in confusion. What are you talking about? Sengoku stroked his chin and explained. Now we can't enter the New World. If Luo Te stays in the New World, it's okay, but I'm afraid he won't come out. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now Big Mom and Kaido have already lost to Luo Te, right? They must want revenge. It's not realistic to easily take down Luo Te with their current strength. Then they can only find allies. Whitebeard is unlikely, and Shanks will not ally with them.
If at this juncture, our Marines unite with them and help them defeat Luo Te, I believe they will agree. Quote. Staff Officer Crane thought for a moment. There is another problem. We are Marines, and they are pirates. We are not on the same boat after all. Sengoku smiled and said, I know that every 4 emperor has his pride.
They are not ashamed to be with Marines. But who said we should ally with them openly? We only need to secretly provide troops or strong people to disguise as members of their pirate group. To improve their combat capabilities without revealing that they have cooperated with us.
Garp was a little confused at this time, but the only question is, are they really willing to cooperate with us? Staff Officer Crane shook his head and said, based on the strength and ambition shown by Luo Te now, I believe Big Mom and Kaido also know that Luo Te is a greater threat to him than our Marine.
If we join forces with our Marine to deal with Luo Te,
even if we become enemies with them at that time, the two of them will not take us seriously. Sengoku clapped his hands and said, then I will arrange for someone to contact them now. Chapter 155. The strongest man in the pirate world. Gulala. Luo Te is really capable. Whitebeard and his gang also received the report.
The report said that Luo Te had replaced Whitebeard and became the strongest man in the world.
Dad, I think this news agency is targeting us on purpose. George was holding the newspaper and was a little indignant. After all, his father had been called the strongest man in the pirate world for many years, and he was still a little dissatisfied that someone else had taken away the title. His father did not lose to Luo Te, so how could he take the title of the strongest man in the world? However, Whitebeard didn't care about it at all. Gulala, George, it doesn't matter whether I have this title or not, as long as you live well.
He is such a person, and he doesn't care who the title of the strongest man in the world is.
As long as his family lives happily, he is not interested in these so-called titles. However, his sons don't think so. But Dad, if you want to get the title of the strongest man, you must defeat the original title. George said, holding the newspaper tightly. I feel that this report is very likely to be released by the Luo Te pirates and the news agency in secret collusion. Bramank also looked a little unhappy.
Ace shook his head. Don't worry about that. Luo Te is not such a person.
Marco also said, Luo Te will naturally not do such a despicable thing. This should be a gimmick created by the news agency to earn traffic.
Although he only saw Luo Te once, he could see that Luo Te was an upright man. And since he knew that Luo Te was Ace's master, he also got a lot of information about him from Ace. Knowing Luo Te's character, I believe he will not do such a thing. New World, Dressrosa, King's Highland. A pink figure stood by the window. Luo Te, I thought you were just a young boy who knew nothing, but now you can even defeat Kaido. What are you going to do? Do you want to subvert this world? After saying that, the pink figure pushed open the window in front of him, and the strong wind blew his flamingo feather cloak whirring. This world is getting more and more exciting. A strangely dressed man sitting on a square seat next to him said, Dover, now that Kaido has been defeated, do we need to reduce our cooperation with him? The pink figure is naturally Don Quixote Doflamingo, the young master of the Don Quixote family. Doflamingo did not turn around, only a voice came. Kaido now needs our cooperation more, we can not only not reduce but also strengthen cooperation. Just then a man wearing a cotton cloak with a circle and holding a cane with a plum blossom logo appeared in front of him. Dover, the production of the toy factory is now progressing steadily. Torrible, too close. Doflamingo took a step or two back. Okay, then follow the normal production process. If there are not enough toys, let Sugar turn all the disobedient citizens into toys. A supergiant golden ship floated on a sea area in New World.
Tesoro, who had just finished his solo concert, returned to his office.
A man with a big head and a small body, who looked like Fukuru, emerged from the floor. He was holding a newspaper in his hand. Tesoro, I believe you will be very interested in this newspaper. He then handed the fresh newspaper to Tesoro. Tesoro took the newspaper and saw the huge headline on the top. Ha ha ha, Luo Te is worthy of it, he actually defeated the combination of Big Mom and Kaido directly. In fact, Tesoro has been paying attention to Luo Te since the first time he killed celestial dragons. When his ex-girlfriend was auctioned off and his funds were not as good as that of celestial dragons. He was paranoid that as long as he had money, he could have everything. So after so many years of hard work, he became the world's leading rich man. Not only did he have both black and white, but he also controlled 20% of the world's floating Bailey. He can even use money to manipulate the power of the world government. But in his heart, he still hates celestial dragons. As he dealt with celestial dragons more and more times and the communication became more in-depth, he realized that world government was a complex and powerful organization. It was not something he could deal with. So when Luo Te attacked celestial dragons, he was very optimistic about this young man. And every time there was news about Luo Te, he would pay attention to it, and he also hoped that one day he could meet this man who often dominated the charts. Because there is no one in the world who has killed celestial dragons like Luo Te and successfully escaped from the siege of Marine. And until now, he has won the title of the strongest man in the world. He believes that people like Luo Te will not be content with the status quo and become a small four emperors living in a corner. At this time, Tesoro's eyes were shining with gold, and the almost dead heart was burning with the flame of revenge again. Baldigo. Dorag held the newspaper with a serious expression. Luo Te, didn't I expect you to have reached this point? After the last in-depth communication with Luo Te, Dorag felt that Luo Te's idea was simply unrealistic and impossible to achieve. He still advocated letting every country break away from the control of the world government. Until the number of these countries is large enough, they can gather a considerable force to resist the world government. However, when he saw that Luo Te already had such a strong strength, he also had a little hesitation in his heart. He remembered that Luo Te asked him, after you overthrow the world government, who will manage these countries? Will you manage it? Or will each manage their own? Then can the interests between countries be balanced? Wherever there are people, there are conflicts of interest, and wherever there are conflicts of interest, there will be disputes. Disputes are wars, and the world will fall into the same pattern again. Even what you do may not be as good as the world government. Luo Te also said, let this world be unfair. The fundamental reason for the displacement of people is not the world government, but the prejudices and interests of people's hearts. So if you want to change this world, you must merge this world into a huge kingdom. Only by starting ideological education from an early age can you truly make this world peaceful. Dorag-zan, what's wrong? Sabo seemed to see that Dorag was hiding something on his mind. Dorag turned his head and looked at Sabo. Nothing happened. Sure enough, has Dorag also received such a report? Mr. Luo Te is really powerful. Dorag was a little worried at this time. The young man who was designated by him as the next successor did not believe in his own ideas, but in Luo Te, who was recently called the strongest man. Luo Te, there is a handsome man on a white horse who wants to challenge you. Chapter 156. Cavendish. Luo Te raised his eyebrows. A handsome man riding a white horse? He recalled that this was Cavendish in the original book. Why did he come to challenge him? Haha, are you confused? Why didn't the guards help you stop him? Robin's voice sounded at the side. During this period, Luo Te devoted himself to being the king of Sha. Except for Robin, the rest of the partners were all involved in the construction of the new territory, Taoyuan. Yes, Luo Te named the territory of New World, Taoyuan, and the country on it was still called Shaguo. Guoban also became Luo Te's secretary. Luo Te turned his head and looked at Robin with interest, obviously waiting for her next words. I believe you will be interested in this man. What do you mean? I'll tell you something funny. Do you know what this man is called? Luo Te asked in confusion. What, 10,000 years second? Luo Te looked at Robin in some confusion. You know that you have been occupying the headlines since you went to sea. And under this headline, the second report is about Cavendish.
He is also called the dream of thousands of girls because of his extremely handsome appearance.
Luo Te smiled and shook his head. Then I will go to see this second brother of 10,000 years. Then he activated the super hard net. He found the electromagnetic waves of a man and a horse at the number 3 entrance of the main island. An electromagnetic teleportation disappeared into the palace. At the number 3 entrance of the main island, a handsome young man with a cowboy hat decorated with fluff on his head and golden curly hair covering his bangs over his shoulders rode a white horse.
Dressed in aristocratic clothes. Naturally, it was Cavendish who had just entered the new world and was called the Supernova. Completely different from his elegant dress. At this time, he was holding a western sword in his hand and shouting, "Hurry up and call Luo Te out." And the guards next to him looked at this man helplessly. If Robin hadn't specifically ordered them, they might have already fought with this man. That man has the ability to steal my headlines, but doesn't he have the ability to come face to face with me? After calling for a long time, no one answered him, as if he was a transparent existence at this time. He. Still wanting to be called the strongest man in the world. Is that all you can do? And at this moment, a figure slowly emerged in front of him. Cavendish's pupils shrank. What kind of appearance is this? Teleport. But his shock was only for a moment, and his face was replaced by anger. Luo Te, you, the man who always steals my headlines, finally dare to show up.
Luo Te looked at the handsome man in front of him with interest.
Having read the original work, he certainly knew this man.
Born in the kingdom of Rommel, the gorgeous supernova, who entered the New World a year before the Summit War, was the captain of the handsome pirate group. As long as he became the focus of attention, he would be very happy, and he always aimed at this. It was not until the limelight was stolen by Luffy and other 11 supernovas that he began to resent these supernovas. He was determined to kill these supernovas. However, in the later Dressrosa incident, he became one of the 7 captains of the Straw Hat Pirates' large fleet. For the man who was shouting at him in front of him. Luo Te actually had a deep affection for him. He had a second personality, and the second personality would only appear when he fell asleep or when his main consciousness was about to lose. However, his second personality is a completely bloodthirsty personality that does not distinguish between friend and foe. However, in the Dressrosa incident, there was a situation where the main personality and the second personality coexisted. And the main personality protected Robin despite his injured left hand. He distinguished between good and evil and was sensible. Although he was a noble son, he did not suffer from aristocratic disease. Who are you? Hearing Luo Te's words, Cavendish could no longer hold back. Look at you. You stole my headlines, but you didn't even recognize me. It's simply unforgivable. Before the voice fell, he raised his sword and chopped Luo Te down. Luo Te disappeared from the spot with an electromagnetic teleportation and appeared 10 meters away. He spread his hands helplessly. Can you introduce yourself first, so that I can get to know you and know what I did wrong? Cavendish's chest rose and fell violently with anger. My name is Cavendish, a man who should have occupied all the headlines. Luo Te heard this and laughed secretly. Sure enough, this person is just after fame. As long as there is someone who exceeds his fame, he regards him as an enemy. Luo Te looked at Cavendish with interest and said, reputation is something you earn yourself, not given by others. Cavendish was obviously a little crazy. His expression was quite crazy. I only know that if I kill you now, no one will compete with me for the top spot. Oh, it seems to be true on the surface. But how do you know if there will be others competing with you for the top spot after I am gone?
Cavendish didn't listen at all and rode towards Luo Te on a white horse. I don't care. If there is one more, I will kill one. If there are two, I will kill a pair, until I kill all the people in front of me, then I will be the top spot. Luo Te shook his head and felt that this man was hopeless.
Beautiful sword Bluebird. Cavendish held Durandal in his hand and stabbed at Luo Te at high speed.
This move was so fast that it actually generated a strong airflow around the sword. However, facing this move, Luo Te seemed to be scared and stood there motionless. Seeing this, Cavendish tilted the tip of his sword to the side, and the sword that was supposed to pierce Luo Te's chest pierced his shoulder directly.
The imagined scene of the arrow piercing the flesh did not appear. The tip of the sword pierced Luo Te's shoulder with a ding sound, and sparks splashed.
And he was also knocked to the ground by the huge impact force. Nani, seeing that his unbeatable move did not break Luo Te's defense, and even failed to pierce his t-shirt.
Cavendish was completely stunned, but he thought it was normal. After all, the man in front of him was the man who defeated the 2-4 emperors.
And when Cavendish deliberately tilted the tip of the sword to the side, Luo Te raised a curve at the corner of his mouth.
It seems that this Cavendish is still a good person.
At least not a bloodthirsty person. Seeing that his move was easily blocked by Luo Te, he continued to attack, and this time he did not intend to hold back. Beautiful sword blue. Cavendish stomped his feet on the ground, jumped up and stabbed Luo Te between the eyebrows with Durandal in his hand. This move was even faster. If it was an ordinary Marine Vice Admiral, he might not be able to resist it.
But who was he facing? It was Luo Te, the cheater. Luo Te tilted his head to the side, stretched out his right hand and slapped Cavendish on the left face.
Snap. Bang. Cavendish was directly slapped into the ground by Luo Te's slap, and a deep pit was smashed in the ground at the same time. For a long time, Cavendish was not seen. Luo Te felt it slightly at this time. Hey, is it too heavy?
In his perception, Cavendish had lost consciousness. Just when he was about to go forward to dig Cavendish out, a more powerful momentum than before appeared in the deep pit. Second personality? Chapter 157, Hakuba.
Luo Te walked slowly towards the pit. The guards were full of admiration when they saw Luo Te easily take down the pirate nobleman who had been in the limelight recently.
This is our king. So strong, the strongest man in the pirate world.
With such a king, Shaw will be strong. It's just a pity for this beautiful young pirate. The king just waved his hand and beat him down. Before Luo Te could get close, a figure appeared next to the pit.
It was Cavendish's second personality, Rommel's sickle weasel. Ding ding ding. In just a moment, the second personality disappeared from the spot, and at the same time, sparks appeared on Luo Te's body. Sure enough, it's faster than the speed of shaving. He was a little strange and familiar with this feeling. After thinking for a while, he remembered that Rommel's sickle weasel was like clothes, scoop death.
It was also extremely fast and attacked indiscriminately. The difference is that Klo can actively enter that state, but that state is still Klo's aura.
And Cavendish obviously can't control his inner personality. When his body is controlled by the inner personality, it's like a different person, and his aura becomes much stronger. I just don't know if the two states are interlinked. But after Klo got the devil fruit, he never used ladle to death again, and I don't know if he can enter that state. At the moment when Luo Te was thinking, he had been slashed dozens of times. The guards' eyes almost popped out at this time. They didn't see what happened at all. Only the sparks on Luo Te's body reminded them that their king was attacked. King, are you okay? King, are you not injured? King, we're here to help you. The guards ran towards Luo Te with their weapons. Luo Te shook his head at the guards and waved to them, saying, "It's okay. You don't have to come over." He didn't plan to think too much. There were still some guards standing nearby. If Cavendish continued to attack indiscriminately, they would not be able to resist. Ding ding ding, the attack continued, but Luo Te just raised his hand and grasped the blade of Durandal. The guards were relieved when they saw this scene. SGE, as expected of the king, we can't see him at all. After being chopped so many times, the king didn't have a single wound on his body. Luo Te heard the guards' discussion and smiled helplessly. This is only in Sha Kingdom where the guards of the kingdom can talk casually. At this time, Cavendish struggled frantically, trying to pull Durandal out of Luo Te's hand, but it was useless. The sword seemed to be welded to Luo Te's hand, motionless. Luo Te stared at the somewhat hideous Cavendish carefully, thinking secretly in his heart. If he remembered correctly, this Cavendish was the captain of the handsome pirate group. Was he the only one in the pirate group?
Otherwise, who could stop this captain who suffered from severe sleepwalking?
Or was Cavendish always tied up with chains when he slept? Wait, I didn't allow you to show up privately, Hakuba.
Just as Luo Te was thinking, Cavendish's ferocious expression had become normal. Luo Te asked curiously, "Is this Hakuba?" To be honest, he didn't know what Hakuba was. The only explanation he could give was that Hakuba means white horse in Finnish. How could a personality be named like a white horse? Well, a very troublesome guy. Cavendish looked Luo Te up and down and asked, "Is it possible that it didn't hurt you?" Luo Te shook his head and found it a little funny. Originally, this Cavendish came to kill him. Now he was actually worried about whether his little personality had hurt him. Your condition is called schizophrenia in our place.
Cavendish thought about it, but he didn't find this new word in his mind.
He asked in confusion, what is schizophrenia? Luo Te repeated the interpretation of schizophrenia in his previous life to him. Cavendish nodded. He felt that his symptoms did fit the description. So he asked, is there any way to? But before Cavendish finished speaking, his expression became extremely ferocious again, with his yellow hair flying. I'm going to chop you into pieces and feed you to Faruru.
Obviously, he entered his inner personality again.
After saying that, he began to tremble all over again, and his face turned into Cavendish's again. Don't come out. Just as he said a word, his inner personality ran out again. Shut up. Go to sleep, Cavendish, you weakling. Cavendish. No, I can't leave this to you. Hakuba. You can't do anything with your strength. Rookie Cavendish. Cavendish. What? How dare you call me a rookie? I didn't see you hurt Luo Te. Hakuba. It's because you're making trouble. Cavendish. Don't mess with me, brother. You don't understand.
Hakuba. I don't care, I'm going to chop everything into pieces. Cavendish. What did you say? The guards on the side were already dumbfounded. This was completely a conversation between two people. Luo Te also looked at Cavendish, who was changing his face like a Sichuan opera, with an interesting look on his face. If the two personalities had not had different auras, he might have thought that Cavendish was acting in front of him.
Cavendish. I'll do it. Hakuba. I'll do it. Just as the two personalities were arguing, Cavendish's face was perfectly divided into two halves.
The guards were stunned and couldn't help but complain in their hearts. This is completely two personalities occupying half of the body. This person is probably sick. I don't care who comes, this is my country, you can go wherever you want. Luo Te pursed his lips and said so. He felt that if he stayed with him for another minute, he might go crazy. No, I'm going to beat you today. It was surprising that the two personalities did not disagree this time. One wanted to defeat Luo Te and regain the title of the top brother, and the other was simply bloodthirsty. Cavendish struggled even harder, but it was useless. Let me go, I'll kill you. Don't you see the gap between us? Luo Te shook his head and looked at the half-human, half-demon handsome boy with some pity. If you want to defeat me, go back and practice for a few more years. After saying that, Luo Te kicked Cavendish on the butt. Go. With the addition of electromagnetic catapult, Cavendish's figure turned into a stream of light and flew towards the sky. The speed was so fast that he disappeared in Shaw country in the blink of an eye. A voice came from the air. I will definitely come back. Chapter 158. Big Mom and Kaido officially form an alliance. In Toto Land today, due to the resurrection of Big Mom, the pirates who originally came to rob resources have retreated like a tide, and there is no war at all. Thanks to the ability of Big Mom's soul fruit, all the buildings damaged by the war on each island have been completely repaired by Homie C. Except for the fact that there are fewer people on the island, there is almost no difference from before. But from the perspective of the building and appearance, it has been restored to its original perfect state. Such a repair speed is a shocking achievement in any place. All the members of the Big Mom pirates who were taken under Kaido of the Beasts because of Big Mom's death have also returned. Seeing that everyone is safe and sound, Big Mom's hatred for Kaido has also decreased a lot for a while. Katakuri, Smoothie and others are preparing an extremely grand banquet to celebrate the return of Big Mom. At this time, the entire Wano country is like a giant bird waiting for the wind to flap its wings and fly high again. Mom, Kaido called. Parasparrow walked to Big Mom with a Den Mushi. Big Mom was not in a particularly good mood at this time, and she was quite tired. One reason was that she had been injured in the last battle with Luo Te and had not fully recovered. In addition, she had used a lot of soul power to create homies and repair the entire Wan Guo, which also wasted a lot of physical strength. She didn't know why Kaido called her at this time. Did he want her to submit to Kaido? It's really a tiger in a flat land being bullied by a dog. But out of courtesy, she still took the Den Mushi. Mom, brat, what's the matter? I'm not in a very good mood now. Roo-la-la-la, old woman, you won't be defeated once and you will be unable to recover. Hearing Kaido's voice coming from the Den Mushi, it was still so annoying, and she regretted answering the call. Big Mom sat up and shouted, what, do you want to die, brat? You're too young to lecture me. Hurry up. Say what you want to say, if nothing else, I'm going to eat cake. For a while, spit flew everywhere, and Den Mushi couldn't help but narrow his eyes. From the expression of Den Mushi, Kaido was obviously shocked by Big Mom's attitude. Roo-la-la-la, old woman, I'm relieved to see that you are still in such a state of mind. According to the lifespan of the giants, Big Mom has not reached menopause, but her mood at this time is particularly irritable. Say what you want to say. I'm in a bad mood now. I think it's time for us to form an alliance, Nani. Hearing the voice coming from the other end of the phone, Big Mom was obviously shocked by this sentence. She didn't believe her ears and thought she had heard it wrong. What did you say? I said let's form an alliance. After getting confirmation again, Big Mom was silent. Kaido obviously guessed that Big Mom would be shocked by his proposal, and Den Den Mushi's expression became a little melancholy. Ah, yes. You should not have forgotten the dream when you each founded a pirate group. Big Mom fell into memories after hearing this. After the failure of Rock's pirate, the crew members on it also separated and scattered in every corner of the pirate world. Some became the store manager of the tavern. Some returned to their hometown and became ordinary people. Some opened a clinic. Some opened a clothing store. But most of the members almost still did their old business, going out to sea as pirates. Among them, Kaido, Big Mom, Whitebeard and Ochaku were all those who founded their own new pirate group and continued to go out to sea. Now several decades have passed. I, Kaido, and Whitebeard have all become 4 emperors, and are only one step away from the Great Secret Treasure. But in order to obtain the Great Secret Treasure, you must collect 4 signpost historical texts. But now 3 of the 4 signpost historical texts are in the hands of the 4 emperors, and the whereabouts of the other one is unknown. After so long, the current situation has not changed. Day after day, year after year, the same life is repeated every day. But even after so many years, they still haven't forgotten their wishes when they went to sea. She smiled and said, Mom, I'm not old and confused yet. I must remember this. You won't forget it, will you? Kaido boy. Stinky old woman. How can I forget it if you haven't forgotten it?
What do you mean by alliance? The Den Den Mushi expression became serious at this time. It means you and I will form an alliance, collect 4 landmark historical texts, and find the final island together.
As for who will be the winner in the end, we will decide the winner on the island.
After thinking for a while, Big Mom raised an arc at the corner of her mouth. This proposal is interesting. Why do we have to form an alliance? Who knows if you will do something behind the scenes?
The Den Den Mushi sighed and said slowly, you also saw that the original New World should be the 4 emperors fighting for the world. But since that Luo Te boy came, this calm water has been stirred up. In addition, he is very powerful, much stronger than you and me. He will definitely become a stumbling block on our way. Even if we are not careful, you and I will die. Although Whitebeard is old and sick, but his strength should not be underestimated. Red-haired Shanks is in his prime, and has a faint Roger's aura. It is natural for you and I to form an alliance to take down these 3 people. As long as these 3 people are dealt with, the entire New World and the Great Secret Treasure will be at your fingertips. Hearing Kaido's explanation, Big Mom was moved. Mommy Mom, Kaido boy, I didn't expect your brain to be so flexible. You won't set a trap for me, will you? Woo la la la, of course not. The specific matters will be discussed in detail after you and I meet. Mommy Mom. New World Wano-kuni, Ghost Island. Kaido hung up the Den Den Mushi, and the whole person was very excited. Jin, prepare the ship, we are going to Wano-kuni. Taoyuan. My husband, I can't do it anymore. Hancock's skin was rosy, and she fell to the side trembling all over. At this time, her eyes were blurred and charming. She felt as if she was floating in the air, as if she had ascended to heaven. Luo Te also lay down and gently embraced the delicate body covered in sweat. After a long while, Hancock finally recovered and buried his head in Luo Te's chest. Husband, you can go with peace of mind. I will take care of Sha country for the time being. Luo Te gently stroked her jade-like back. Without the celestial dragon's hoof, her skin was very smooth, like solidified fat. The next day, under the reluctant gaze of everyone, Luo Te and Nami boarded the skybreaker and flew away on the carrier of an island cloud.
Chapter 159. Luo Te and Nami. The skybreaker was lifted up by a cloud and flew towards the front half of the Grand Line.
Nami stood alone on the deck, letting the wind play with her orange hair.
At this time, she pouted her lips slightly. Damn Luo Te, she is a beautiful woman after all, but she didn't come to accompany me. I don't know what she is doing in the cabin. Nami was very happy to be able to go out alone with Luo Te.
Who knew that Luo Te would leave such a beautiful woman like her alone, but walked into the cabin after saying something.
Fortunately, she was wearing a hot bikini. As the sky gradually darkened, the sunset gradually disappeared.
There was a sudden sound of footsteps behind her.
Nami didn't think about it, knowing that it was Luo Te, and didn't turn around.
Nami-chan, it's time to eat. Luo Te's gentle voice sounded from behind. Nami was startled when she heard it, so he was going to cook for half a day? However, she still didn't turn around. Luo Te knew that this girl must be angry when he saw Nami like this. He was a little helpless, he didn't know how to do this question. Women are really like this, you don't know when they get angry for no reason. And you don't know why she is angry. He walked behind Nami and patted her shoulder gently. What's wrong? Are you reluctant to leave Shagwo? He could only attribute Nami's current low mood to reluctance. But Nami's shoulders shook, and she shook Luo Te's hand. It's okay, I'm not hungry. Luo Te couldn't help but put on a bitter smile at the corner of her mouth. The ant was really angry. He could only coax her and said, lovely, beautiful, kind Nami, let's eat.
Nami turned around, pouted her lips, and still didn't speak.
Although facing Luo Te, her eyes were not on Luo Te. Luo Te could only wave lightly at the deck, and suddenly a dining table and 2 dining chairs appeared on it.
At this time, the table was full of exquisite food and 2 glasses of high-end red wine.
Then he snapped his fingers lightly, and candles appeared. Nami's anger had actually subsided after seeing this scene. At first glance, Luo Te was very thoughtful and romantic. It turned out that he had been fiddling in the cabin for a long time to prepare dinner.
However, her expression still did not show a trace of surprise. It was obvious that she was waiting for Luo Te to coax her.
Nami-chan, happy birthday. After saying that, she took out a cake from the system space. The cake was orange in color, in the shape of an orange, and it was decorated with peeled orange slices.
A candle with the number 16 was burning. Nami was stunned. Ah, what? Luo Te made a please gesture. Please sit down, Nami-chan, today is your 16th birthday.
Nami was stunned. This was the first time in so many years that she had celebrated her birthday so formally.
Except for Belmere, who would celebrate her birthday when she was a child, she had never celebrated a few decent birthdays. Almost every birthday was celebrated in fear, even when she was being hunted. She didn't know how Luo Te knew her birthday. After calculating the time, today was indeed her 16th birthday. Tears filled her eyes for a moment. Luo Te, thank you.
Nami directly put her arms around Luo Te's waist and buried her cheeks deeply in his chest. Luo Te also put his arms around Nami's shoulders, holding her delicate body in his arms, and the fragrance penetrated into his nose. Luo Te's mind was blank for a moment. No matter what happened in the past, I will be with you on every birthday in the future. Luo Te's voice was very gentle, as if he was coaxing a child. Yeah. Nami nodded. Okay, this is what I prepared carefully, sit down quickly. Nami sniffed with red eyes and slowly sat on the chair. The red of the setting sun sprinkled on Nami's face, imprinting a girl's happiness. As early as when Luo Te unconditionally handed over 100 million Baileys to her, Nami had already developed a deep love for Luo Te. In addition, she killed Arlong and liberated Kakoa West Village, and lived with Luo Te for a long time. This love is like bamboo shoots after rain and can be stopped. In fact, in the previous life, Nami was one of Luo Te's 2-dimensional wives, and there were many posters of Nami in the room. After crossing over, this paperman stood in front of him alive, more beautiful and more plump than the original. How could he resist falling in love with such a strong girl? To say that Luo Te's feelings for Nami are simply from the previous life to this life, spanning 2 lives, she is a goddess-level existence. If it weren't for Nami's age, Luo Te would have eaten this delicious orange long ago. Come make a wish. Hearing Luo Te's words, Nami put her hands together and pressed them against her eyebrows. I want Luo Te and his friends to be healthy and safe. Shagwo will prosper for generations. I want to marry Luo Te and give him 10 children. As Nami opened her eyes, she blew out the candles in one breath. Okay, I've made my wish. Wow, Luo Te, did you make all this? Nami looked at the sumptuous meal in front of her and was a little shocked for a moment. Since she met Luo Te, she had never seen Luo Te in the kitchen. Who would have thought that Luo Te could make such exquisite food? Luo Te nodded. Of course, this is specially made for your 16-year-old adult ceremony, try it. In her previous life, as a programmer working far away from home, she would occasionally cook for herself. Any province or city in China can make a splash in the global food industry. Not to mention the world of pirates, as long as Luo Te's random home-cooked dishes can set off a big wave here. Hearing this, Nami carefully picked up a piece of wild boar ribs and put it in her mouth. Her lips were stained with a little oil, looking a little crystal. Her pupils shrank, like a firework blooming in her mouth. Wow, so delicious. After dinner, Luo Te came to the bow. White clouds passed by the bottom of the boat, and when he looked up, the stars began to shine in the night sky. Nami slowly walked behind Luo Te and put her arms around Luo Te's waist. Luo Te. Feeling the 2 soft balls pressed against his back, Luo Te slowly turned around. What's wrong, Nami? Nami looked up at Luo Te, the stars reflected in her eyes, and she felt a bit confused. Thank you for preparing a birthday party for me today. This is the happiest birthday I have ever had in my life. Luo Te gently rubbed Nami's head. I will be here in the future, and I will be by your side every birthday. Nami nodded. Thank you. Thank you for saving me from the abyss. If it weren't for you, I might not live to be 16, and Kakoa West Village would be devastated. Silly girl, that means we are destined to meet. Luo Te would never say that he went to find Nami on purpose. To repay you, I decided to give myself to you. Nami's face turned red after she said that. Luo Te didn't understand what she meant for a moment. Nami pouted her lips and complained. You are really a wooden head. Then she pulled Luo Te's head down, kissed his lips. Luo Te raised his eyebrows. What are you waiting for? He directly picked up Nami by the waist and walked into the cabin. Luo Te, be gentle. 10,000 words omitted here. Chapter 160. Encountering Celestial Dragons again. Gerudo Island, Duru Town. How much do you think this is? A beautiful woman with orange hair and a good figure was holding a set of suspenders in a clothing store and arguing with a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was about 1.45 meters tall, with a middle-parted hairstyle, small eyes, a pointed chin, and two mustaches that were very distracting. The man rubbed his hands in front of him with a helpless expression on his face. He introduced this dress to the beautiful girl who looked very rich. Look, this is hand-woven with the best silkworm silk from West Blue, and this side thread is sewn with the golden eagle armpit velvet from South Blue. The orange-haired beauty's eyes flashed, staring at the man. Do you think I don't understand? This is clearly ordinary silk from Grand Line Baistu Island, and this is not golden eagle armpit velvet, but the armpit velvet of the gray seagull on this island. The middle-aged man never thought that the girl in front of him, who looked only 16 or 17 years old, actually knew so much about clothing. For a moment, his face turned pale. Ahem, this. I'll sell it to you for 100,000 belly. The orange-haired girl raised her eyebrows. This fabric is worth 100,000, 20,000 belly. The boss's forehead was already sweating. This girl was so powerful and knowledgeable. It seemed that he had met his match today. He could only say embarrassedly, beautiful, beautiful girl, yes, this is already the cheapest price, it can't be any lower. The orange-haired girl pulled the young man standing next to her and said to the boss, do you know who he is? He is my man. The middle-aged man then noticed the young man next to him and looked at him carefully. Then, as if he had seen something terrifying, you are, Shen 2, Luo Te. Then he turned around and looked at the orange-haired beautiful girl in front of him, then you are by Quan Nami? This beautiful girl and young man are naturally Luo Te and Nami who just returned to the paradise. Luo Te stood aside and felt shocked. The initial price of this piece of clothing was 2.1 million belly. How come the price has dropped by 20 times now? This is no different from those street clothing stores on Blue Star in the previous life. Then I don't want your money. The boss's legs were shaking like sieves, and he almost knelt down to the two of them. In this world, who doesn't know that Luo Te is a demon who kills without blinking an eye, has no respect for the law, and even doesn't take Marines seriously? He didn't expect his luck to be so bad. He thought he could make a lot of money from this beautiful girl today, but who would have thought it was Shen 2 and Bai Quan? It really cost him his life. Nami reached out and took out 500,000 Bailey bills and handed them to the boss. We are not ordinary pirates. We will still pay the money we should pay. This is the money for these clothes. The boss held the money in his hand and was a little unbelievable. Isn't it rumored that Luo Te and his gang are all demons and do all kinds of evil? Why doesn't it look like that? Luo Te knew the boss's thoughts very well, and really regarded them as $0 shopping in the United States. Okay, we are just ordinary consumers now, help us pack these. The boss nodded repeatedly. Finally, he personally escorted them out of the store, fearing that the immortals would be dissatisfied and kill him. As soon as they walked out of the store, the boss knelt down. Nami looked puzzled. Boss, what's wrong? The boss knelt on the ground with his head down, stretched out his hand and pulled the corner of Luo Te's clothes. Lord Luo Te, kneel down quickly, the world nobles are coming. Luo Te looked around and saw that everyone on the street knelt down, their heads buried deeply. And several figures appeared at the corner of the street. 3 world nobles wearing glass covers on their heads, 2 men and 1 woman. The one in front was a white-haired old man. Following closely behind was a woman who looked a little casual, with black eyes looking at each other, looking to both sides, and under the white noble clothes were several layers of swimming rings. At the end was a man. This man had a very wide distance between his eyes, a pile of snot hanging under his huge garlic nose, and a very fat body, like a pig. The 3 of them each rode a strong pirate mount. There were also 8 bodyguards in black uniforms around them. Hurry up! Snap! The male celestial dragons whipped the pirate under him with a whip, and blood splattered immediately. Ah! I want to go home. I have only been at sea for 3 years. I have a wife and a 1-year-old child waiting for me at home. The pirate under the male celestial dragon burst into tears and began to miss his hometown life. Humble inferior race, stop talking, hurry up, snap. The male celestial dragons whipped him again. Zelensky Nissan, I told you to change a strong slave, but you didn't believe it, look how slow you walk. The female celestial dragon looked at the slave under Zelensky with disgust and said so. The old celestial dragon turned his head and looked at his beloved son helplessly and said, okay, there will be an auction in Saboti Archipelago next month, I will buy you a new one. Seeing the 3 nobles getting closer and closer, the middle-aged man boss's voice became a little hurried. Lord Luo Te, Lord Nami, kneel down quickly, don't let them see. In Luo Te's perception, he could clearly feel that all the people who knelt were full of fear in their hearts. It was obviously not the first time they met the world nobles. It is very likely that they have heard of or even witnessed the cruel methods of the world nobles, which made them so scared when they saw the world nobles. And Nami on the side could naturally see everyone's awe of celestial dragons. Is this the world noble celestial dragon? It really makes people feel disgusted. Lord Nami, stop talking, stop talking. The middle-aged boss's body has begun to tremble involuntarily. He is now with Nami and Luo Te, if he makes this celestial dragon unhappy. Not only will Nami and Luo Te die, even he will be held jointly responsible. So now he could only beg these two god tiers to kneel down obediently. However, a voice came, and his heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Hey, why don't those two over there kneel down? Zelensky saw Luo Te and Nami standing, and his voice sounded a little angry. His snot grew 10 centimeters and almost fell to his chin. Luo Te raised his head and looked at the three bubble people in front of him. In this world, there is no one who can make me kneel down. The middle-aged boss next to him wanted to cry when he heard Luo Te's words. It's over, it's dead. Nami raised her head and looked at Zelensky with disgust. Huh, so disgusting. Can such a person be called a noble? Zelensky obviously heard this sentence, and just when he was about to get angry, he saw Nami's face. His eyes lit up immediately. The orange-haired woman in front of him was extremely beautiful and had a very hot body. Even he had hardly seen such a beautiful woman. For a while, his saliva flowed onto the glass cover. Wow, that's great. Bring this woman to me and let her be my 108th wife. Zelensky waved to an agent beside him. Nami felt sick after hearing this. Luo Te's expression was also a little gloomy. Partners and women were his Achilles heel, and no one could touch them. You're looking for death. Suddenly, a majestic aura emanated from Luo Te. All the people in the town were unable to move because of this aura. The agents' foreheads were covered with sweat. The three celestial dragons were under the greatest pressure, and their joints made a cracking sound. He is the God Slayer, Luo Te. Chapter 161. Kill more celestial dragons. What's the matter with the God Killer or not? Go and get that woman now. Snap. Zelensky whipped the agent on the shoulder. However, as the most loyal dog of celestial dragons, he still endured the pain from his shoulder and said anxiously. Fox Biden Saint, Zelensky Saint, Witch Raimondo Palace, run away. He is the four emperors Shentu Luo Te. The other agents also spoke up. Biden Saint, Zelensky Saint, Raimondo Palace, run away. He is the Luo Te who killed celestial dragons. Since Luo Te killed 2 celestial dragons last time, he broke through the heavy siege designed by Marine and world government. The name Luo Te was listed on the list of celestial dragons cannot be provoked by the world government, and it was ranked first. So when Luo Te was still in the paradise, celestial dragons were imprisoned in Marijoy and were not allowed to go to the world. They were afraid of meeting Luo Te, the god of killing. So they were almost going crazy. The slaves at home were dead or injured. Women were tired of playing. They were able to bring Biden and others to buy slaves and sightsee this time. It was all because Luo Te had gone to New World. It was impossible to meet him in the first half of the Grand Line. But before this departure, the knights still explained that if they met Luo Te, they must stay away from him and must not have any conflict with Luo Te. Otherwise, even they might not be able to save him. However, they were very unfortunate that they actually met Luo Te here. What made them even more desperate was that Zelensky actually offended him. In the entire pirate world, who doesn't know that Luo Te's favorite is beautiful women, or lowly? Zelensky wanted to rob other people's women right away, which was equivalent to offending not to death. The agent now only hopes that his agent partners will quickly take the 3 celestial dragons away from the island. In this way, even if he dies, his family can survive. As guards of celestial dragons, their families all live in Marijoy. In the words of the world government, this is called protection, but in fact it is a constraint. As long as any agent fails in the mission, their wives and children will be jointly responsible and executed. I am celestial dragons, a world noble. I don't care if he has 4 emperors or not. If you offend me, the Marine Admiral will be dispatched immediately. Hearing Zelensky's words, the agent's body temperature has dropped to freezing point. Now there is no room for redemption. Biden said, Saint Zelensky, say less. Then he said to Luo Te and Nami, kneel down now, and this woman will marry Zelensky immediately, and I will not blame you. The middle-aged clothing store owner who heard this quickly pulled Luo Te's pants. Did Lord Luo Te hear it? Kneel down quickly. Luo Te waved his hand gently, staring at Biden like a knife. Yu Tianlong Pig's attitude is still as disgusting as ever. Biden saw Luo Te's appearance, and his chest rose and fell violently, and his whole face was shrouded in the white air he exhaled. When they went down to the world, they were told to stay away from Luo Te. If they saw Luo Te, they should leave if they could, and don't provoke him. But who are they? They are the nobles of this world, the real rulers. If the pirate world is regarded as a breeding farm, then the nobles of their world are the breeders. Other people in the pirate world are the animals they raise. I have never heard of the master staying away from the animal. So I didn't take such a warning to heart. They're used to being arrogant and domineering. No matter where they go in the world, any country, they will be welcomed with a smile. Why should they run away when they meet a pirate? He can't do it. Go and catch that woman for me. I want to have sex with his woman in front of Luo Te. Zelensky pointed at Nami and spoke to the agents beside him. At the same time, he sucked back the snot that was flowing out with a sound of slurping. CNMD. How dare you say that to Laozi's woman? Luo Te stretched out his hand to the ground, and a stone appeared in his palm in an instant. Then he flicked his finger at Zelensky. The stone passed through Zelensky's glass hood like a meteor. Snap! The glass hood shattered with a sound. Zelensky also slowly fell from the slave's body. There was a thumb-sized hole between his eyebrows. Before he died, there was still an evil smile on his face. Saint Zelensky, Saint Zelensky, Zelensky Nissan. All the agents were stunned. All the residents who were still kneeling on the ground were stunned. Raimondo was stunned. They didn't expect Luo Te to really take action, and it was a one-shot kill. Seeing his son die so miserably, Biden was furious, so angry that he took a whip and whipped the agent next to him. He shouted angrily, "Come on, everyone, catch Luo Te and I will tear him into pieces. And catch that woman and I will sell her to Marijoas's brothel." Knowing that things were irreversible, the agents could only obey orders and rushed towards Luo Te. Luo Te shook his head. He knew that the wives and children of these agents were in the hands of the world government. He had no choice but to work for celestial dragons. But they were not worthy of pity, because the blood of civilians on their hands could not be washed clean. He stretched out his hand and grasped it in the air, and a blue-purple tang horizontal knife appeared in his hand. Then the figure disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, the electromagnetic knife was already on Biden's neck. All the agents fell to the ground, their heads and bodies separated. At this time, a smell of foul smell came, and a pool of yellow liquid appeared on the back of the slave under Raimondo. Obviously, Raimondo was scared to death when he saw this scene. She just remembered why the knights had told her before they left that if they met Luo Te, they should try to escape, and if they couldn't, they should beg for mercy. It turned out that Luo Te really didn't take them, the celestial dragons, seriously. Where had she seen such a scene before? She collapsed on the slave. She didn't even have the strength to beg for mercy. "Luo Te, right? I advise you to let us go now. We are the world's nobles." Biden trembled all over. How could he not feel the murderous intent coming from the blue electromagnetic knife? Stubborn. You guys, you can't call people, you should be a group of beasts. Be a good person in your next life. After saying that, Luo Te turned the tang horizontal sword in his hand, and the glass head cover with an old head fell to the ground. Bang! Shattered. The head also rolled to the side. The expression on his face was very hideous. Then Luo Te teleported in front of Raimondo. What a disgusting race. As long as I live in this world, I will kill all celestial dragons. Similarly, Tang Hengdao flashed a ray of light, and Raimondo's body was split into two halves. Chapter 162. Cunning Kizaru, the middle-aged boss, was almost scared at this time. Run away quickly. Lord Luo Te, the admiral is coming. At this time, some residents have come to their senses and stood up and ran home, obviously packing up to escape from the island. They know that if the celestial dragons get into trouble on this island, all the creatures on this island will be slaughtered. Because the island next to it was turned into a ruin because of offending the celestial dragons. Now they have not only offended the celestial dragons, but the celestial dragons were killed on their island. If they don't run away quickly, they will never have another chance. At this time, a man wearing royal clothes and a crown, supported by a group of guards, ran towards Luo Te against the flow of people. When Luo Te saw the man's dress, he didn't even have to think about it, he must be the king of this island. At this time, the king came over and thought that he should come to ask for punishment. After all, because his country might not exist anymore. But the king just ran to Luo Te and knelt down. Luo Te raised his eyebrows. What was going on? Then he heard the king's voice. Lord Luo Te, I finally waited for you. What? Luo Te was a little confused for a moment. You waited for me. The king raised his head, his eyes a little red. Thank you, Lord Luo Te, for avenging my daughter. Luo Te lifted the king up in the air. What do you mean? Last time, it was this Zelensky who took my daughter away. But, although I am a father, I am more of a king, shouldering the responsibility of a country. I could only watch this Zelensky forcibly take my daughter away. Take Marijoy, she was only 12 years old at that time. The king complained with tears and snot. I want to kill him all the time. But he is celestial dragons, a world noble, and I am the king of a country. The king's voice was a little low as he spoke. The citizens around who were originally preparing to escape also stood up at this time. They also felt great sympathy for the king, even though they hated him. But celestial dragons were like a mountain pressing down on them, unable to climb over it, and unable to do anything to resist. When he came this time, he asked me if I had a daughter, saying that my daughter brought him a lot of happiness. Then the king raised his head, his eyes became fierce. He told me that my daughter lasted for a month before dying, the longest among all his female slaves. Ha ha ha, what can I do? I can only tell him that it is my honor that my daughter can make you happy. Ha ha. Ha ha, ha ha. He slapped his face. I am such a useless father, my enemy is standing in front of me but I can only greet him with a smile. After listening to the king's narration, Luo Te had a new understanding of the celestial dragons. Nami also clenched his pink fists. He had only heard of the celestial dragons, the nobles of this world. It was not until today that he realized that it was more disgusting than he had imagined. The citizens also wiped their tears. It turned out that their princess was not traveling, but was captured by celestial dragons. And was killed by celestial dragons, and their princess was also loved by everyone. Unexpectedly, she was brutally killed by celestial dragons. At this moment, their fear of celestial dragons turned into extreme hatred. Good kill. This Zelensky deserves to die. Thank you, Lord Luo Te, for killing Zelensky to avenge the princess. Celestial dragons should disappear from this world. For a moment, they shared the same hatred and wanted to chop the body of the German driver into pieces. Lord Luo Te, I beg you to protect my country. I will do anything for you, but my people are innocent. He knelt again, please. Luo Te helped him up again. Okay, I promise. What? Luo Te killed Fox Biden Saint, Zelensky Saint and Witch Raymond Palace. Sengoku was furious when he received the news that Not had killed celestial dragons. It was not because he hated Luo Te so much, but he would definitely be scolded by the five elders again. And this was the second time Luo Te had killed celestial dragons. As the territory of Marine, Paradise would definitely be held accountable for such a thing. Call Kizaru to me, and let Sakazuki quickly turn to Gerudo Island. Tell Kuzan that his vacation was over, and go to Gerudo Island to capture Luo Te together. After a while, Kizaru's lazy figure appeared in the marshal's office. Mr. Sengoku, I'm still on vacation, why did you call me here? Kizaru still had a nonchalant tone. Go to Gerudo Island right now and hold Luo Te back. Hearing Sengoku's words, Kizaru was confused. Luo Te returned to paradise? Luo Te killed the Biden family on Gerudo Island. Sengoku's expression was quite serious. Luo Te killed celestial dragons again after being tired. What a lawless young man. Kizaru's eyes widened under the yellow sunglasses. He remembered that Luo Te should be in New World. How did he suddenly appear in paradise? And he killed 3 celestial dragons as soon as he appeared in paradise. He was really a very scary young man, but when he thought of Luo Te's terrifying fighting power, he retreated a little. Sengoku-san, I may not be able to stop him alone. Sengoku sighed. He knew that Luo Te was extremely powerful and could not be compared with Admiral. I just asked you to stop him and harass him, don't let him leave Gerudo Island. Kizaru spread his hands, but I can't deal with him alone. Sengoku sat down slowly on the sofa. I have informed Sakazuki and Kuzan, they will come to support you later. Kizaru was not very happy when he heard this, but he still replied, okay, then I'll go now. Then he walked out. Sengoku picked up the Den Mushi again, pressed a number and dialed it out. After a while, the Den Mushi turned into an old man. Ha 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 ha, Sengoku. What's the matter? I'm on vacation now, and I'm challenging the record of eating senbei without sleeping. Garp, your vacation is over, go to Gerudo Island now. The expression of the Den Mushi was stunned again, and then snob bubbles appeared. Sengoku saw this scene and was instantly angry. It turned out that this old guy fell asleep while talking on the phone. Garp. Boo, the snot bubble burst. Ah, is it dawn? Is it time for breakfast? Seeing this, Sengoku was furious. There were 5 elders above him who were always talking to him. And his old friend didn't show any sympathy to him. The soldiers under him were disobedient, and the higher their positions, the more disobedient they were. He was tired of being the marshal. Garp, Luo Te returned to paradise and killed celestial dragons. You go to Gerudo Island now. Oh, celestial dragons? Just kill them. Garp's tone seemed quite indifferent. Garp, remember that you are now Marine Vice Admiral. As a marshal, I order you to go to Gerudo Island immediately. Without waiting for Garp to answer, Sengoku hung up the Den Mushi. At this time, Kizaru was floating in the air, slowly moving towards Gerudo Island. Why am I always the one who gets hurt? Well, let's go slow. Let Sakazuki and Kuzan go first. I'll go to support them later. I hope they don't get killed. Chapter 163. Territory +1 Luo Te came to Gerudo Island, the palace of the Kingdom of St. Ka. Lord Luo Te, you said you can move Gerudo Island? King Timumanbelu was a little surprised. He had never heard that an island could be moved. Before, he thought that Luo Te's way of protecting the Kingdom of St. Ka was at most to plant the flag of Luo Te pirates. Then station some pirates to guard. Who knew Luo Te wanted to move the entire island? Luo Te nodded and confirmed, well, move Gerudo Island directly to Taoyuan. Umanbelu was a little unbelievable in his heart, but now in front of him is the strongest man in the pirate world, Shen Tu. It can't be inferred by ordinary people, then, will there be any danger? Hearing Umanbelu's question, Luo Te smiled and shook his head. He knew the king's worries. After all, no one would believe that an island could be moved. The whole island will be moved, and you can do whatever you want on it, there is no difference. Hearing this, Wu Mungbelu nodded thoughtfully. Then when is Lord Luo Te going to move? If he can really move, he hopes to move immediately, because the admiral must be on the way at this time. He knows that Luo Te is very powerful, but marine and world government will definitely send forces that can deal with it. If the battlefield is chosen in the kingdom of St. Ka at that time, they will be the ones who suffer. The island next to them is a lesson learned. So the sooner you move away, the sooner you will feel at ease. I'm sorry for you. If I hadn't killed the celestial dragons, you wouldn't have to do this. Wu Mengbailu shook his head. It's not your fault. We originally had a deep grudge against the world government. It was you who saved us. Luo Te stared at Wu Mengbailu's slightly vicissitudes of life face and asked solemnly. Do you really agree to join me? Your Shenka is a member of the world government, and you are protected by the world government. Hearing Luo Te's words, Wu Mengbailu smiled bitterly. In fact, being a member of the world government is not a good thing. Not only do we have to pay tribute of valuable heavenly gold every year, but every time celestial dragons descend to the world, we have to act as bodyguards and provide entertainment venues. We even have to provide women and so on. The last time Zelensky came to Shenka, not only my daughter, but almost all the young and beautiful women in the kingdom were forcibly taken away by them. Everyone dared to be angry but dared not speak, and could only watch their daughters and wives being taken away. It's not that no one resisted before, but the ending was quite miserable. We have accumulated a lot of resentment, and everyone hopes that one day we can get away from the world government. De Zhongkong Ideographic Period. Wo Yi Jing Ming Ren Zhong Jigi Xiao Shi Chuan Di La Shaku, Shang Xin Da Jia Do Hen Li Yi Ideographic Period. Luo Te Ruo Yu Suo Si De Mo Sa Je Sha Ba. Na Ju Deng Ni De Xiao Shi Ba Ideographic Period. Wu Men Bei Lu Y Tu Kan Je Luo Te Da Ren. Shu Yao Wo Men Zun Bei Xian Mi Ma. Luo Te Yao Yao Tu. Yu Nami Dui Shi Li Yi Yan. Ran Hu Wei Da Dao. Bushu Yao. Ji Yao Ni Men Tong Yi La. Xian Zai Ju Nen Ban Zo Ideographic Period. Wu Men Bei Lu Song Li Yi Ko Chi. Yuan Ben Ta Hai Dan Shen Shu Yao Zuo Yi Xie Te Bia De Zun Bei Ideographic Period. Jieg Wo Luo Te Gao Su Ta. Xian Mi Do Bu Shu Yao Zun Bei Ideographic Period. Yi Suan Shi Yi Gi Jing Shi La Ideographic Period. Ju Zai Jie Shi. Luo Te Mei Tu Yi Tiao Ideographic Period. Zai Ta De. Chao Xin Wang. Zhang Gan Ying Dao. Zai Li Du Lu Tuo Dong Mian Ten Gong Li De Hai Mian Shang. Chu Xian Li Yi Su Junjian Ideographic Period.
Junjian Shang Mian Hai Yu Yi Ming Chang Da De Marine, Chi Shi Hen Shi Shu Shi Ideographic Period. Hong Go Admiral Ma, Zhao Zai Ta Sha Si Celestial Dragons De Shi Hu, Chao Xin Wang, Juyi Ji Fu Gai Jie Zheng Zuo Du Lu Tuo Dao Ideographic Period. Ta Ji Dao World Government Hai Yu Marine Ken Ding Wei Yu Shang Ying De Dong Zuo Ideographic Period. Suo Yi Ta Yi Ji Mei Yu Fang Song Jing Ti Ideographic Period.
He stood up slowly. What's wrong, Master Luo Te? Wu Mengbailu looked at Luo Te with some confusion. Luo Te said, we may not be able to wait for everyone's feedback. Now we have to lift the whole island into the air. Nami also stood up and held Luo Te's left hand tightly. What's wrong? Is Marine here? Her observation haki is not as wide as Luo Te's, and she did not sense any abnormality. Well, it should be Akainu, but they are still about 10 kilometers away, so we still have some time. Luo Te nodded in response. Admiral Akainu. Wu Mengbailu's face turned pale instantly when he heard Luo Te's words, and his body began to tremble unconsciously. That is the highest combat power of naval headquarters, and each of them has the power to destroy the world. Among them, Marine Admiral Akainu is the user of the lava fruit, and his destructive power is unimaginable. He didn't know whether Luo Te could protect Naruto from the Admiral, but now Luo Te has undoubtedly become his last straw. Lord Luo. Luo Te, please save Naruto. Luo Te patted his shoulder. Don't worry, I will be responsible. Then he said to Nami, let's raise the island first. After that, he took Nami's hand and disappeared in the palace. Wu Mengbailu's eyes almost popped out when he saw this scene. What's going on? It's okay to just disappear. Luo Te took Nami's hand and came to the sky above Naruto. People of the kingdom of St. Ka, I'm Luo Te. No need to explain. Now we are going to lift the entire island. There may be a slight shake. After saying that, he activated the electromagnetic force and applied it to the island. Suddenly, the entire island began to shake, and a gap appeared where the island met the seabed. Then Luo Te slowly controlled the island to rise into the air. Really, the entire ground is rising. Wu Mengbailu stood in the square in front of the palace, a little shocked. He could feel that the entire Naruto island was slowly rising. He really didn't doubt that Luo Te had the ability to move the island. So magical. We are really approaching the white clouds. Lord Luo Te is so powerful. Is this the strength of the strongest man in the world? It's so terrifying. We are really going to move. Shush, damn. Why are you not wearing pants? I thought it was an earthquake, so I ran out. For a while, people on the island began to talk about it, and they were all shocked by the scene in front of them. Obviously, they had never seen such a supernatural event. The whole island slowly rose until it was out of the sea. Nami waved her hand under the island, creating layers of island clouds, slowly lifting the island. Gradually rising to the sky. Now the island has been lifted up by the island clouds and is slowly rising. The people on the island can only judge that they are rising by the white clouds getting closer and closer above their heads. In the square outside the palace, a beautiful woman in a golden phoenix robe nestled in Wu Mengbailu's arms. We should be considered to be out of the world government and the celestial dragons now, right? Wu Mengbailu nodded. Yeah, I guess so. Then do we not have to pay the gold from the sky or offer beauties as tribute? Wu Mengbailu raised his head and looked at the approaching sky. Yes, finally we don't have to be controlled by the world government anymore. However, the beautiful woman's next words made him fall into deep thought. Will Lord Luo Te be even more excessive than the world government? For a while, neither of them spoke again. It had come to this point, and there was no chance to turn back. On a marine warship not far from Naruto Island. Admiral, the needle seems to be broken. A navigator colonel beside Akainu pointed to the needle that was spinning in his hand. How far is it according to the map? Akainu asked. 10 kilometers more. Akainu waved his hand. Ignore the needle, let's continue to move towards the goal. Yes. Just then, a figure slowly emerged from the bow of the warship. Shen Tu Luo Te. Chapter 164. Akainu broken arm. Akainu's voice was full of hatred. Some of it was because of the harm Luo Te had done to him last time. But more of it was hatred for pirates. Similarly, his purpose of coming to Naruto Island was more to arrest Luo Te. He believed that all pirates were evil, and Luo Te had now become the most evil among them. Naturally, they became his primary target of attack. Even if Luo Te had not killed celestial dragons, as long as he knew that Luo Te was on Naruto Island, he would have rushed here without stopping. You were indeed on Naruto Island, Luo Te. However, when the soldiers behind him saw Luo Te, they couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in their hearts. This Luo Te just stood there, and the invisible momentum made them almost breathless. Not to mention fighting with Luo Te, he is worthy of being called the world's strongest man. For a moment, all the soldiers wanted to retreat. Luo Te looked up and down at the admiral, and then looked at the sea behind. There was some confusion in his heart. Why are you here alone? Don't you have anyone in your marine? Luo Te's voice was a little contemptuous. In the past, shouldn't Kizaru be the first to appear? Why is it Akainu now? In Luo Te's impression, in the original book, Akainu was not very interested in the world government, and did not want to be controlled by the world government. He was not expected to take action just because the celestial dragons were attacked. Why is it Akainu who took action this time? Is Kizaru on a mission? Akainu was shocked when he heard that, because he heard Marshal Sengoku said that Kizaru had been asked to delay Luo Te. Although he was closer to Naruto, Kizaru was faster. According to normal circumstances, Kizaru should have arrived a long time ago. Why didn't he see anyone? Did Kizaru not come, or was delayed on the way? Sure enough, others are unreliable, and you can only rely on yourself. However, his expression did not change at all. Humph, what's wrong with me? For absolute justice, I will arrest you today. I declare your voyage over. I don't know who gave you the courage. It seems that the lesson I taught you last time was not enough. After saying that, Luo Te looked at Akainu with a playful look on his face. Hearing Luo Te say this, Akainu actually had some doubts in his heart. He was deeply impressed by Luo Te's terrifying strength last time, which almost crushed him. After so long, Luo Te's strength will definitely improve. The gap between the two will only get bigger and bigger. But the persistence in his heart made him almost ignore the gap in strength. He is such a person. No matter how strong the opponent is, he will never back down. In order to implement the absolute justice in his heart, he will not hesitate to sacrifice his life. First, I'm a marine admiral. If I back down in the face of a mere pirate, then who will implement the justice of this world? Seeing Akainu's righteous appearance, Luo Te was more appreciative and helpless. Although the two have different positions, it does not prevent Akainu from being a competent marine commander. This admiral is somewhat paranoid in his view of justice, with a straight character, cruel and merciless methods. He does not allow even a little bit of evil to exist. He once ordered the bombing of the refuge ship of Ohara residents during the Ohara incident, just because there might be scholars hiding on it. He even killed civilians and colleagues to complete the mission of justice. Luo Te guessed that it was probably because his family and friends were brutally killed by pirates in his childhood that led him to hate pirates so much and have such a distorted view of justice. He is at the opposite extreme from Aokiji. Aokiji's justice is free and humane, which is why he is loved by many soldiers. Luo Te shook his head slightly and said, I wanted to let you go, but now it seems that there is nothing to say between the two of us. Akainu laughed angrily. Damn pirate. Do you really think you can beat me? He didn't plan to say anything more. His right hand turned into magma and punched Luo Te in the face. Luo Te saw this and an electromagnetic teleport appeared behind him. The lava fist lost its target and flew forward. The seawater began to boil wherever it passed, and the air was distorted by the intense heat. Luo Te raised his foot and kicked Akainu in the back. The right foot wrapped around Haki went straight through Akainu's body and took away nearly half of Akainu's body. Admiral Akainu. Seeing such a horrifying scene, all the soldiers on the warship screamed. However, half of Akainu's body turned into magma in the air and fell on the sea. Hiss, hiss, suddenly, a stream of white mist rose. The half of Akainu's body that was left on the warship was surging with magma. Seeing this, Luo Te's eyes lit up and he exclaimed. Has it been transformed into an element in advance? Admiral is still very difficult to deal with. Akainu slowly turned around and looked at Luo Te with anger. What an annoying speed. In an instant, the half of his body that disappeared had completely healed. Then he condensed armament hockey on his right fist, and a pink hockey wrapped around his fist. He raised his fist and attacked Luo Te. Luo Te also punched up. Bang! As the two fists met, black lightning raged, and a powerful shockwave spread out. The strong wind created cracks on the deck. The soldiers who were closer were knocked to the ground by the shockwave. For a moment, the fists of the two men were in a stalemate. Feeling the power coming from the fist, Luo Te's eyes condensed. Top armament hockey emission? Compared with Luo Te's relaxed expression, Akainu's expression was quite ferocious, and he had obviously used all his strength. But even so, he still failed to repel Luo Te. For a moment, his heart gradually cooled down. Is it a lot better than last time? But that's all? After Luo Te said this, he increased the strength of his hand. Akainu's figure flew backwards at a high speed. Nani? Akainu Admiral. The soldiers on the warship all looked at Akainu flying backwards in disbelief. Because he was the god in their minds, an invincible existence, and also one of the highest combat forces of naval headquarters. How could he be knocked out by a pirate's punch? All the soldiers raised their spears at once and pointed them at Luo Te. Luo Te shook his head. Tantan was really a group of pitiful people. A flash of red light flashed in his eyes, and an unparalleled conqueror's hockey swept out. Except for the two rear admirals who were still conscious, all the other soldiers rolled their eyes and fell to the ground. The bare fist flew back hundreds of meters and was about to fall to the sea. Several moonwalks rushed back to the warship. Seeing the soldiers lying on the deck of the warship, there was no pity in his expression. He thought these were just the sacrifices that should be made on the road of justice. Luo Te naturally saw Akainu's expression. He really couldn't like such an admiral with a distorted sense of justice. In this case, let him stay on the bottom of the sea. He stretched out his hand and grasped it in the air, and a tang horizontal sword appeared in his hand. Draw the sword and cut. Luo Te disappeared and appeared behind Akainu. The blade brought up an arm that was burned to charcoal in the air by lightning. Did you dodge? Luo Te sighed. The blade was originally aimed at Akainu's neck. At the moment when the two crossed, Akainu took a small step to the side. Luo Te did not give him time to react. He appeared in front of Akainu with a teleportation and stretched out his hand to pinch his neck. Ahem, damn pirates. Justice will judge you. Akainu's mouth was bleeding, and his expression was ferocious. Luo Te shook his head. Not all pirates are pirates. Maybe you won't understand no matter how much I tell you. See your opponent clearly in the next life before you attack. Just when Luo Te was about to break his neck. Chapter 165. Return to the land of sand. A golden laser shot towards Luo Te's arm from a distance. It was extremely fast. Luo Te could only give up on twisting Akainu's neck, threw Akainu onto the deck, and retreated to the side. Then the laser turned into Kizaru's figure and appeared in front of Luo Te. Seeing Akainu lying on the deck with his left arm gone, he breathed a sigh of relief. It's so tiring, Luo Te. I didn't expect you to do such a big thing as soon as you returned to the paradise. Looking at the wretched figure in front of him, Luo Te couldn't help but pout. You came in time, otherwise you would have collected the body of your Akainu admiral. Ahem. Akainu slowly stood up and stood in a corner with Kizaru. Borsalino, we will investigate your responsibility for being late later. Now take Luo Te down first. In this world, no one can stop me from killing the person I want to kill. After that, Luo Te teleported and appeared in front of Akainu. At this moment, two figures came at high speed and appeared on the deck together. Wow, Luo Te, you killed a marine officer in front of me. Did I allow you to do that? Luo Te frowned and looked at the two figures. They were Garp and Kuzan. Old man Garp, long time no see. What are you doing here this time? Garp clenched his fists. Although I don't like celestial dragons, first I'm a marine vice admiral after all, so you should just surrender. Luo Te looked around. There were 4 admiral-level opponents in front of him. And there were dozens of warships coming in the distance. Then everyone, goodbye. After saying that, he disappeared from the spot. What a lunatic. Even if Luo Te was strong, he didn't have the confidence to deal with 4 admiral-level opponents directly.
The best strategy is to run away. Ah, he just ran away. Aokiji touched his head in distress, looking careless.
Akainu flew straight into the air and chased Luo Te. Let's chase him. Sakazuki. What are you doing? You can't catch up with him. Kizaru hurriedly stopped him. Akainu turned around and looked at Kizaru who was still standing there and shouted, Borsalino, why don't you chase him? Kizaru spread his hands. It's useless for me to chase him alone. He would not be stupid enough to chase him alone, because there might be no one to collect his body by then. Akainu got angry after hearing this, and looked at the 3 people who were indifferent in front of him. What do you mean? Aokiji scratched his head. You can see that Luo Te is very fast. Among the four of us, only Borsellino can catch up. Kizaru heard the words and beat the drum of retreat loudly. No, 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 I will die if I chase him alone. You chase him and entangle him, and we dare to come later. With the strength of the four of us, we can definitely keep Luo Te. Akainu suggested. Let me go, you know Luo Te's strength, I can't entangle him at all. Kizaru raised his hands to surrender. Akainu knew that if he didn't seize such a good opportunity, it would be difficult to have it again in the future.
But now none of the three people had any intention of chasing.
Are we just going to watch him run away? Is this still Marine? Is this still justice? Garp spoke at this time. Sakazuki, the situation is complicated now. Borsellino can't catch up with him alone, and we can't catch up. It's better to go back first than to sacrifice in vain. Akainu felt that the old man was unreasonable. Vice Admiral Garp, you have to know that Luo Te is the worst pirate in the world, not comparable to ordinary pirates. Garp shook his head. I don't have a cold for celestial dragons, and Luo Te is not evil. Akainu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but a sound of Den Den Mushi came over. Bulu bulu, bulu bulu, Akainu took out Den Den Mushi from his arms. Then the Den Den Mushi turned into Sengoku. Sakazuki, did Luo Te run away?
Akainu frowned, knowing that it might not be a good thing. Yes, Luo Te just left, we should be able to catch up. Den Den Mushi sighed, no need to chase, it's meaningless.
Why, the four of us can definitely keep him. Akainu didn't expect that Marshal Sengoku called just to let them retreat, and it was Sengoku who asked the four of them to catch Luo Te. How come he was the one who asked to retreat? I believe you also know his speed. Only Borsellino can catch up, but he can't fight Luo Te alone. Since he has left, don't make unnecessary sacrifices. But, okay, I will reply to the five elders, and I will bear the consequences if there are any. Akainu hung up the phone and returned to the deck very reluctantly. Luo Te's figure slowly appeared in front of the palace. Nami ran over quickly, with a look of concern on her face. How is it, are you okay? Luo Te shook his head. Nothing, but luckily I ran fast, otherwise I would have been in trouble. Nami complained. Stinky Luo Te, why didn't you let me help you? Do you know how worried I was? Luo Te rubbed Nami's head. Okay, I'm fine, I will definitely not let you be a widow. Hiss, Before he finished speaking, Luo Te felt his waist being pinched hard. Don't talk nonsense. At this time, Wu Mengbailu came over. Lord Luo Te, are you okay? Luo Te waved his hand. Nothing, let's go to the Sand Country Alabasta next. Wu Mengbailu nodded. Okay, since he had chosen to follow Luo Te, it was up to Luo Te to decide where to go. Alabasta. The Sand Country, which was originally full of yellow sand, has become extremely prosperous. Seeing this, people on the surrounding islands have all immigrated here. It also led to a significant increase in the population of Alabasta. Thanks to Cobra's careful management and Luo Te's ideas, the entire Sand Country is now thriving and life is in order. Princess Vivi is standing on the outer wall of the palace, looking at the sky in the distance. Since Luo Te notified Cobra with Den Den Mushi, he will come to Sand Country in the next few days. Vivi looks forward to it every day, hoping that figure will appear. Wait, Mom, Princess Vivi, go in, it's going to rain heavily soon, you will catch a cold. Ikalem walked quickly to Vivi and opened an umbrella for her. Vivi shook her head. Well, calculating the time, Luo Te should be in Alabasta today. Ikalem looked at this stubborn princess and was a little stunned. Once upon a time, this princess was also high above and did not look down on anyone. Although she is approachable and has no princess's airs, she can play with the people on weekdays. But she always keeps a certain distance. Now she would rather stand in the rain just to wait for a man. Looking at the expression on Vivi's face, Ikalem knew that since the princess had made up her mind, no one could pull her back. So he did not persuade Vivi to return to the palace, and stood quietly beside her with an umbrella. Gradually, the drizzle became heavier, hitting the umbrella, making a da-da sound. Just when Ikalem was about to remind Vivi to go back again. That's the Skybreaker. Finally, a looming ship appeared in the sky in the distance. Chapter 166, Marine's Worries Bang. He slammed his right fist on the desk, his face full of anger. Damn it. Luo Te escaped like this. Sengoku could only sigh helplessly. Akainu, I know you must be very dissatisfied and angry now. But Luo Te has become a very difficult enemy, and it is not possible for one person to fight. He felt that Luo Te was just like being airborne in this world. All the methods used to deal with these pirates before were not practical on Luo Te. What made him feel incredible was that he had become the strongest man in the pirate world in just 1 year at sea, not only defeating several of their admirals.
He even defeated the combination of Big Mom and Kaido. He had never felt so difficult with anyone. Even as the resourceful general, he had no good way to deal with Luo Te at this time.
He could only find an opportunity to set a trap for Luo Te later to catch him.
But it was obviously unlikely to act again in a short period of time. If he wanted to be foolproof, he had to plan for the long term.
But if all four of us chased after him at that time, we would definitely be able to catch Luo Te. Akainu didn't listen at all, and from his expression, he was obviously dissatisfied with Sengoku's arrangements. Sengoku's index finger tapped the table, making a dong dong sound, which was his habit when he was helpless.
Although I haven't seen Luo Te's speed, from your previous description, I can see that his speed should be second only to Kizaru, so only Kizaru can catch up.
Hearing this, Shaquan was so angry that he bit the cigar in his mouth into 2 pieces. He looked at Kizaru with complaints in his eyes. Borsalino, as long as you catch up and entangle Luo Te for more than 10 seconds, we can get there. Hearing this, Kizaru slowly put away the nail clippers and didn't even think about cutting his fingernails. Please spare me. I have dealt with Luo Te the most. I have to admit that within a dozen seconds, I have no confidence that I can keep him. Akainu clenched his right fist and melted a big hole in the desk in front of him. It is because of your ambiguity that the entire Marine is so embarrassed. If everyone is like you, then what face does Marine have? How can it enforce justice?
At this time, Aokiji next to him spoke. Sakazuki, don't say that. If it were you, how long could you hold out against him?
Akainu turned his face aside and did not answer. Aokiji pointed to Akainu's sleeve. He also cut off one of your arms. Akainu danced with his empty left sleeve, as if he could still feel the pain from it. This was left to him by Luo Te, and he would definitely return it one day. Humph, this is the sacrifice that should be made on the road of justice. If you could chase Luo Te together at that time, what would you be afraid of even if you broke another arm? Aokiji sneered. If you are so reckless, it will not be as simple as breaking an arm. What did you say, Kuzan? If you were not so indecisive, we would have caught Luo Te long ago. Seeing that the two were about to fight, Sengoku quickly said, Okay, both of you, say less. Akainu could no longer sit still, glared at Aokiji, then stood up and walked out. Seeing this, the Crane staff officer could only helplessly support his forehead. In response, everyone did not say anything, because they knew that Akainu was just like this. This Luo Te really made him a force to be reckoned with. If we had taken action to subdue him at the beginning, we would not be in such a predicament now. The Crane staff officer said so. Ha, Xiaohei, you have to know that the first person to attack him was Borsalino, but he was so powerful that even Borsalino couldn't do anything to him. Garp's voice sounded. Hearing this, the Crane staff officer looked melancholy. Yes, no one would have thought that a teenager could have such a strong power. Before, he was considered a competent bounty hunter, and he did not show any pirate side. Sengoku said slowly. In fact, all our methods against Luo Te are already very important. I didn't expect that Luo Te is not only ridiculously strong, but also like a loach, and can't be caught at all. Everyone fell into deep thought after hearing this. Luo Te is also one of the few opponents that has slapped them in the face several times since the establishment of their marine. The key is that this opponent is extremely fast and has the technology to float the island. If he didn't take the initiative to appear or design to lure him out, then dealing with Luo Te would be a matter of paper. And at this time, a noisy phone call came. Sengoku took a deep breath and knew that this was a call from the 5 elders. As soon as the Den Den Mushi was picked up, a roar came from it. Sengoku, what do you marine do for a living? You can't even catch a Luo Te. Except for Garp, everyone else frowned. Sengoku did not speak. The voice of Den Den Mushi continued. Hurry up and find a way to capture Luo Te for me, otherwise you will not be able to be the marshal anymore. Alabasta. On the stone-paved road, a blue-haired girl was riding a black duck and moving quickly towards the port.
Karu, hurry up, Master Luo Te will be here soon.
Karu, the blue-haired woman, was naturally the princess of Alabasta, Vivi. About 200 meters behind Vivi, a man with short dark tea-green hair and a red-brown long windbreaker rode a camel and followed slowly. Having entered the waters of Alabasta, Nami controlled Naruto Island to slowly stop at an altitude of 10,000 meters, 5 kilometers away from Alabasta. King Umanbelu and all the residents on the island felt that the island had stopped. Master Luo Te, have we reached the sky above Alabasta? Luo Te nodded. We are now above Alabasta. If we put the island down now, it will rise again tomorrow. So for the sake of convenience, we have to inconvenience everyone for a while. We will set off for New World tomorrow. Wu Mungbelu and the princess looked at each other, and then responded. Everything is up to Lord Luo Te. In fact, for them, being able to stay on the island all the time, whether it is in the sky or in the sea, makes almost no difference. Then Luo Te took Nami's hand and disappeared in the hall. Wu Meng, it seems that we and Lord Luo Te should have made a correct decision. The princess stared outside the palace and said so. After half a day of getting along, their views on Luo Te have changed greatly. They feel that Luo Te's words and deeds are completely unlike those of his age. He is more like a wise old man who has experienced the vicissitudes of life. He has his own unique insights on the governance of the country and the world as a whole.
As the strongest man in the world, he does not feel bossy, but is unusually approachable.
At least it feels more relaxed and happy to get along with him. It was also a forced decision to hand over the kingdom of St. Ka to Luo Te. But as of now, it should be a very correct decision, even better than becoming a member of the world government. Chapter 167. Princess Vivi leaving Gerudo Island, Luo Te and Nami chose to take the Skybreaker to Alabasta. The Skybreaker gradually descended under the support of the island cloud and slowly landed on an open space in the port of Alabasta. Then Luo Te and Nami both appeared above the port. Wow, is this still Alabasta? So beautiful?
Looking at the changed Alabasta in front of her, Nami's beautiful eyes trembled slightly.
This has completely become a spring island, so beautiful. Looking around, it used to be an endless desert. At this moment, it has been replaced by green grasslands, dotted with various small flowers. Looking further away, some lush bushes have emerged. At this time, the sky was drizzling. The whole Alabasta was shrouded in a layer of mist. In such an environment, I believe that even if the sun is in the sky, it will not be very hot.
Luo Te saw this strange and familiar place in front of him, and felt a faint sense of accomplishment.
Although changing the magnetic field of an island may change the climate of the island, all this is just his guess. Unexpectedly, after changing the magnetic field of the entire island of Alabasta, the weather and environment have really become so good. It can be called a miracle. Luo Te's super heart net spread out, covering most of the sand country. I saw that many previously undeveloped places now have many residents. I think they are immigrants from other places. The atmosphere on the island is full of harmony and prosperity. Similarly, 3 electromagnetic waves are rushing towards the port, 2 in front and 1 in the back. As the figure approached, Luo Te also saw the blue figure riding a big black duck. He naturally recognized that it was Alabasta's Princess Vivi. When Kalu approached Luo Te, Vivi jumped and ran towards Luo Te. Luo Te frowned slightly. What's going on? But there was no time to think about it. Vivi threw herself directly into Luo Te's arms. Luo Te was stunned. This. He raised his hands in the air and didn't know where to put them for a while. In the previous life, Vivi's tenacious character and spirit of unity and friendship left a deep impression on him. With that stunning face and the turbulent 2 years later, she certainly couldn't escape the fate of becoming his second-dimension wife. But in this life, he didn't spend much time with Vivi. How could she just jump into his arms?
Lord Luo Te, I finally waited for you. Vivi's voice rang out from Luo Te's arms.
Hearing this, Luo Te was a little stunned. He just said that he might come to Alabasta in the next few days, but didn't say the specific time. It's not difficult to guess from the little girl's words that she has been waiting for a long time. Luo Te reached out and stroked her head. Her blue hair was wet. The gorgeous clothes were also moist, thinking that she must have waited for a long time in the rain. You don't have to come to pick me up, I can do it myself. Vivi raised her head from her arms. I want to see you soon. I'm afraid that Master Luo Te will never come to Alabasta again. Looking at this pretty face, Luo Te's heart trembled for a moment. Reaching out to lift the wet blue hair in front of Vivi's forehead, Vivi, are you stupid? After saying that, he put his arms around her waist. Vivi was slightly stunned, and then hugged Luo Te tightly. At this moment, her love was responded to. The worries for so long finally dissipated at this moment. Nami stood aside with a faint smile on her lips. Although she had been with Vivi for a short time, the two had become sisters who could talk about anything. Although it was unclear why Vivi fell in love with Luo Te, seeing that her sister had waited for the clouds to clear and the moon to shine, she received the response of true love. However, out of sight, a heart has been broken. Vivi, are you really in love with Lord Luo Te? His eyes were slightly red as he spoke. Why does a drop from the sky make you so obsessed? Is our friendship for so many years really just a passing cloud? Seeing the scene of the two hugging each other, Vivi's face was full of happiness, and for a moment he was relieved again. As long as Vivi can be happy. Thinking of this, he led the camel and walked back. In the rain, his back looked a little lonely. Luo Te covered a circle of electromagnetic barriers around the few people, and the rain was isolated. Okay, let's go back. Vivi came out of Luo Te's arms with a blushing face and nodded gently, yeah. Then he looked at Nami with an apologetic look. Nami smiled at him, then walked up and took Weiwei's hand. Let's go to the palace first. When the group arrived at the palace, they were directly led to the banquet hall by the guards.
Lord Luo Te, I finally got you here. Don't you know that Vivi has been talking to me all day long? I'm almost getting calluses in my ears.
In the banquet hall, Cobra complained to Luo Te. Vivi blushed and pulled Cobra's sleeve, looking shy. Oh, father, can you stop talking? There are so many people watching here. Ikalem smiled like an ant next to her. Mom, Princess Vivi has finally found true love. I'm really happy for her. The weather was particularly good at night, although it had been raining all day during the day. There was a hazy moon hanging above the sky. Lord Luo Te, I like you. A pair of young men and women stood together under the night sky. Of course, they were Luo Te and Vivi. Luo Te gently hugged Vivi's shoulders when he heard the words, I like you too. Although she had received a response during the day, Vivi's heart was as sweet as honey when she heard the word, like, from Luo Te again. Although she had known Luo Te for less than 10 days, she was already fascinated by this man. She was not a love-brained person, nor a member of the Appearance Association. Although Luo Te was indeed handsome, it was not the real reason why she fell in love with Luo Te. I remember that when she first met Luo Te, Vivi was attracted by his mature and confident temperament. However, what really made Vivi fall in love with Luo Te was Luo Te's unique insights and novel ideas on governing the country. She was originally in the royal family and had been involved in state affairs since she was a child. Similarly, as the only blood of King Alabasta, she also knew that the position of king would definitely fall on her shoulders in the future. She lost her mother at a young age, and she was sensible early. She knew how to share her father's worries and how hard it was to govern the country. So she read hundreds of books on governing the country since she was a child. This also gave her a faint queen's temperament. However, the more she understood the governance of the country, the more difficult it was, and the Baroque studio was constantly splitting up in secret. For a while, she seemed to be covered by a curtain and forgot to open it. At this moment, a ray of light appeared, which not only solved the Baroque Works Society in secret, but also shared the governance philosophy that almost did not exist in this world. This ray of light was Luo Te. He was like the sunshine in winter and the breeze in summer. Everything was so gentle, bringing hope to her world.
Strong strength, mature temperament, handsome face, and almost invincible theory.
All of them made her fascinated, but I have a lot.
Vivi naturally knew what Luo Te meant. She gently leaned her head on Luo Te's shoulder. I love you, as long as you have me in your heart. Chapter 168. Tezulo visits Taoyuan. HP Pavilion X 361 4 Yi by Ji Bu Xingdian Now 14 EK 1025 TU Yin Seidi 13 Di Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows.
New World. A small golden boat was sailing slowly on the sea. Lord Tesoro, we are about to reach Taoyuan. Just when the golden boat was about to approach the outside of Taoyuan by 5 kilometers. Bang! The whole boat trembled violently, as if it had hit something, and stopped instantly, unable to move forward.
The violent shaking made the 3 people on the boat stagger.
What's going on? Tesoro frowned and asked. Mr. Tanaka walked slowly to the bow and reached out to touch the air. Then his pupils shrank slightly, and a pair of hands pressed in the air, as if there was an invisible wall blocking everyone. Lord Tesoro, we are blocked by an invisible barrier. What? Tesoro was a little shocked when he heard this, then go around to the side. Let's go in directly, Mr. Tanaka said, shaking his huge head. Tesoro shook his head. Since we are here to visit, we still have to follow the most basic etiquette. Let's go around to see if there is a gate. Mr. Tanaka nodded. He originally planned to use his ability to take the entire golden ship through. But since Tesoro said so, he couldn't insist. He then controlled the rudder and walked to the left. At this time, in the monitoring room of the main island, Weipa looked at a green dot flashing on the screen. Someone has touched our barrier, Aisha, do you feel it? There was a little girl next to him at this time. The girl had dark red hair, a beige hat, and a dress.
The little girl nodded, stretched out her hand and pressed on a golden sphere next to the screen.
Then she closed her eyes. Well, I sensed it. There are 3 auras, one of which is very strong. She frowned slowly. They didn't destroy the barrier, but went towards the east gate. Weipa rubbed the little girl's head with some pampering. Aisha, your observation haki is getting stronger and stronger, much stronger than mine. Maybe only the king and Enel can compare with you in Taoyuan. This little girl is naturally Aisha from Sky Island, and she is also one of the few powerful characters in the original work. As the captain of Taoyuan's security team, Weipa is responsible for the safety and protection of the entire Taoyuan.
When he was still in Sky Island, he didn't find some assistance because the area was not large.
Now he came to New World Taoyuan, and the territory has expanded rapidly, directly becoming dozens of times larger. Relying on his own patrol ability is not enough, and he saw Enel and Luo Te's observation haki. He remembered Aisha, so he recommended Aisha to Luo Te as his assistant. Of course, Luo Te agreed with this proposal, because you know from the original work that Aisha, with her observation haki, is almost as good as Enel with Thunderfruit. If there is a powerful observation haki user in Taoyuan when he and Enel go out, it will definitely be much safer. Aisha tilted her head and looked at Weipa angrily. Hey, stop rubbing my head.
Before, when they were on Sky Island, Weipa always looked cold because of the war, which made Aisha afraid of Weipa.
However, since the end of the Sky Island War, the entire Sky Island has returned to peace, and Weipa has become gentle and cheerful. Aisha is naturally not so scared. After sailing about 20 kilometers to the left, the 3 of them, Tesoro, really appeared a huge archway. The 2 words written on it were, Taoyuan, Master Tesoro, this should be the gate. Mr. Tanaka stopped the boat. Who are you? A guard looked at the boat and said so. Although there are 8 gates in Taoyuan, this is only one of them. But there are countless people who have visited Taoyuan in recent times. Almost all of them are people seeking refuge or joining Taoyuan. But such an exquisite boat with gold inlaid all over the ship is rare. In addition to the momentum from the 3 people on it, the guards naturally know that they are not ordinary pirates. But looking at the attitude of the 3 people, they are not enemies. Hello, please inform us and say that we are from the Golden City. Tesoro's attitude at this time was unusually good.
Mr. Tanaka was stunned. He had never seen Tesoro so polite to a small guard.
When Tesoro said he was going to visit Taoyuan, he was very confused. It is true that Luo Te is the most popular and powerful pirate in the world. But who are they? They are the masters of the Golden City, so powerful that they can even control part of the power of the world government. Their influence in the entire pirate world is even greater than that of the four emperors. He is well connected to both the black and white worlds, and he is treated as a distinguished guest wherever he goes. It is obviously putting the cart before the horse to visit Taoyuan in such a humble manner. This attitude is the same as those who come to their Golden City to seek refuge. Is their Golden City in big trouble? Do they need Taoyuan's refuge? However, due to Tesoro's firm attitude, he did not say anything, just regarded him as a friend visiting Taoyuan. And considering Tesoro's polite attitude towards the guards, this is the only guess.
Although his head is big, his IQ was not very high. He shook his head and didn't intend to think about it, but just followed Tesoro obediently.
Bakara on the boat also had such a strange feeling. However, compared with Mr. Tanaka's shock, Bakara didn't think much. As long as she could follow Tesoro quietly, she would be content. As for where Tesoro went and what he did, she didn't care much. Is it the world's #1 entertainment city, Grand Tesoro? The guard was stunned, a little bit unbelievable. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect you to have heard of it. Yes, that's my city, Tesoro laughed and replied. The guards were all a little shocked to get Tesoro's affirmative answer. After all, the Golden City is as well known as their Taoyuan in the entire New World and even the pirate world. The guard nodded. Please wait. At this moment, a huge pterosaur appeared on the archway.
The guard saw the visitor and said, Lord Waipa, you are just in time. They claim to be guests from the Golden City and want to see the king.
I guess this is Guild Tesoro, the owner of the Golden City?
The pterosaur looked Tesoro up and down. He secretly admired in his heart that he was worthy of being the king of the world's #1 entertainment city. Just based on the small boat under him, it was worth a lot.
Similarly, the faint momentum coming from Tesoro was not comparable to ordinary pirates. Even in their Taoyuan, he could rank among the top few. Tesoro nodded politely. Yes, I am Gilder Tesoro. Tesoro looked Waipa up and down, and was also a little surprised. The person in front of him should be the Zone Devil Fruit ancient species. And the hidden power in him is also extremely powerful.
Even the guards are so powerful, it can be seen that the strength of this Taoyuan may be more terrifying than reported.
For a moment, he seemed to see the scene of celestial dragons being pulled down from the altar and executed. Seeing that Tesoro's attitude was so good, Waipa was also a little surprised. The king is not in Taoyuan recently, but our staff and the queen are here. Hearing this, Tesoro asked, I wonder when Lord Luo Te will come back. And at this time, Chapter 169, Tezulo's Shock. HP 241-4 Kanji 10 Baiji Bu Sheng Dian Now plus HP Prelude Shang Kai Shi Baiji Bu Sheng Dian Now Show T Bao D13 Die Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows.
A figure slowly appeared at the east door. This person had a slicked back hair, round framed glasses, and a black suit.
This person's hands turned out to be a pair of wings. Seeing this figure suddenly appear, Tesoro's pupils shrank. This was clearly teleportation. The ultimate sense of oppression came from him, and this feeling was only felt by a few people. He had also come into contact with the four emperors, and the feeling this person gave him was not much different from the four emperors. In addition, he always paid attention to the Luo Te pirates. Naturally, he knew this person in front of him. The great pirate with a bounty of 1.37 billion, the god Peng Kuro of the Luo Te pirates. After seeing the real person, it was discovered that the strength of this god Peng Kuro was far beyond everyone's expectations. Hello, you must be Mr. Tesoro. I am Kuro. I wonder what Mr. Tesoro is doing in Taoyuan this time. Kuro's voice was very kind, without the slightest momentum of a high-ranking person. Tesoro withdrew his shocked thoughts and nodded, I am Tesoro. Mr. Tanaka was so shocked that he couldn't move his feet at all. The oppressive feeling coming from the man in a suit in front of him was even stronger than when Lord Tesoro was angry. Although he didn't release it deliberately, it was already a little difficult for him to breathe. Is this the #2 of Luo Te pirates? It's so terrifying. He felt that this was the strongest person he had ever met, no one else. The people in their Golden City have always been arrogant and rarely look at people. He is like a frog in a well. At this time, Klo has taught him a hard lesson. There are people outside people and there are heavens outside heavens. Since he has come to someone else's territory, he can't be presumptuous. I guess you may have something to discuss with the camel. It is very likely about it. Klo pointed to the sky. Tezulo was surprised. Not many people knew about his life story, and he believed that Kuro might not know that he was once a slave of celestial dragons. But why didn't Kuro guess that he was here to cooperate with Luo Te to find the great treasure, but to deal with the world government? However, Kuro could guess one or two just by visiting Taoyuan, which was enough to show that the Luo Te pirate group's advisor was not ordinary. He did not answer directly, but said, since Lord Shen Tu is not here, I wonder if I have the honor to visit the entire Taoyuan? Kuro raised his eyebrows, knowing that Tezulo's visit to Luo Te should be about celestial dragons. But since he didn't say it, he didn't bother about it anymore. Okay, then I'll take you to Taoyuan in person. If it were Kuro in the past, he couldn't do it like a tour guide. However, as he stayed in Taoyuan for a longer time, the edges and corners that were once too long were rounded by the years. On weekdays, all the residents who saw him would greet him enthusiastically, and he gradually began to respond. In the past, Klo only thought about money and gold, silver and jewelry, thinking that was the treasure.
But as he spent more and more time in the Luo Te pirates, he realized how superficial his previous pursuits were.
There are many things in this world that are more valuable and worth pursuing than gold, silver and jewelry. His mind gradually became broader, and the things he pursued also changed. The entire Taoyuan was also built step by step by their Luo Te pirates. It has also become his most precious wealth at present. As Mr. Tanaka docked the small golden boat in the port on the east, several people got off the boat and followed Klo. Mr. Klo. Good afternoon, Lord Klo. Lord Klo, come and see how we choose this stone.
Lord Klo, I said to move this bridge to the side, but he insisted on moving the building to the side. Come and judge.
The first place Klo brought Tezulo and others to was Minsheng Island. All the construction workers and residents greeted him and even asked Klo's opinion. In the last war, the whole island was shattered, but after Luo Te's repair, the whole island has been restored to its original state, even surpassing the past. At this time, various construction methods on the whole island are also in full swing. Of course, Klo also responded enthusiastically, and would communicate with them from time to time about the progress of the construction. The shock brought to Tezulo along the way was undoubtedly great.
He saw the happiness and joy from the bottom of his heart on the faces of every people and every worker.
And Klo, as one of the best figures in the whole Taoyuan, can actually fight with these civilians. This has never happened in his previous cognition. They never dared to imagine that a person with such a high status and power could be so friendly. This surprised the three people of Tezulo. Klo pushed his glasses. How is it? Are you surprised?
Tezulo nodded mechanically. Klo smiled slightly. This is Luo Te's concept. This island is just the periphery. When you see the main island, you can really understand how great what we do is.
Tezulo was already looking forward to seeing the whole Taoyuan. Klo led a group of people across a huge bridge and came to Zudao. Welcome, Longan. Tezulo and the other two looked around, and they almost stuffed an egg in their mouths. The whole main island was full of roads, and chickens and dogs could hear each other.
The road was wide and bright. There was no mess, and all kinds of shops stood on both sides of the road.
Everyone performed their duties and was in good order. From time to time, groups of guards patrolled the streets. There were some small animals playing and fighting with each other on the street. After a long time, Tezuo came back to his senses and said in surprise, "Is this Taoyuan? Although this Longan is not as prosperous as their golden city.
But in fact, it is full of fireworks, and everyone, whether old or young, man or woman,
all are filled with happy smiles. Different from the exaggeration of the golden city, anyone with a discerning eye can see that this is happiness from the heart." At this moment, Tezuo also wanted to retire and become an ordinary resident on Longan Island in Taoyuan. By the way, why don't you see any children? Bakara asked at this time. Hearing such a question, Tezuo and Mr. Tanaka also realized that there were no children on the street at this time. Klo raised an arc at the corner of his mouth. You will know in a while. Klo raised his legs and walked towards the street. Just now, he was only on the periphery, but he could also peek into the grandeur and prosperity of the entire main island. As he gradually approached the center, the buildings became denser and the floors became higher and higher. You can't go here. This is the land of women. Chapter 170. Vivi's Kiss HP Slim Desktop S01PF 3003 HK Dian Now Dao Zhuang D13 Dai Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows 11 Jiaoyang Ban 8GB DD. What? The Kingdom of Daughters. Tezulo raised his eyebrows. He had only heard of the Daughter Island and Amazon Lily. Could this Kingdom of Daughters have any connection with that one? Klo naturally saw Tezulo's surprise. This is the Nine Snake Island in the Calm Belt. What? Hearing this, Tezulo and the other two were all surprised. You know, the Nine Snake Island is in the Calm Belt in the first half of the Grand Line.
How did it come to New World again? Tezulo looked up and down at the island, which was exactly the same as the Nine Snake Island he saw in the report.
The only difference is that the Nine Snake Island is surrounded by the sea, while this island is spliced on the main island. But he still couldn't believe it. Is this really the Nine Snake Island? Klo nodded and responded, yes, this is the Nine Snake Island. This. Tezulo was shocked and speechless. Is it moved here as a whole? As he said this, he took out a map from his arms and found that the structure here on the map was not like this. Originally, there were indeed 5 islands here, but they were very scattered and not arranged in such a regular pattern. Because the climate on them was extremely bad and not suitable for human survival, they did not become the territory of the 4 emperors. However, as it stands now, it should be the 5 islands outside Taoyuan. Obviously, the bad weather has become quite mild at this time, and it is no problem for ordinary humans to live on them. He had a bold guess in his mind at this time that this main island should have been moved from other places. The bad weather should have been transformed by the Luo Te pirates. All of this looked like a miracle, incredible. Chloe did not intend to explain anything more. In fact, in his cognition, this was also a particularly magical thing. Not only that, after joining the Luo Te pirates, one thing after another defeated his cognition.
Everyone in the pirate group has his own specialty, so everything they do is abnormally beyond imagination.
If everyone is combined together, he has no doubt that he can overturn the world. He also understood what Luo Te once said to him. My strength alone can penetrate the entire world, but it is almost impossible to fulfill that dream. I need everyone's help. Seeing that Chloe had no intention of explaining, Tezuolo did not ask any more questions. What he encountered along the way was enough to shock him for the rest of his life, and he felt like he was in a dream. He now looked forward to the legendary strongest man in the world even more. Alabasta. Luo Te gently rubbed Vivi's head. I didn't expect you to be so naughty when you were a child. Vivi rubbed Luo Te intimately. After the banquet, the two came under the moonlight. Vivi kept leaning on Luo Te's shoulder and talked a lot. Most of them were about interesting things in his childhood. Maybe this is what it means to fall in love with someone. You want to share everything with him. For example, what you eat, what small animals you meet on the road, the beautiful scenery you see, interesting things in your childhood, etc. Luo Te said, okay, go to bed early, we have to move to New World tomorrow. Vivi raised her head and looked at Luo Te, the moonlight sprinkled in her eyes, beautiful like a clear spring. Her originally beautiful face looked unusually beautiful under the hazy moonlight. The small red lips sparkled with sparkling crystals. Gulp, Luo Te's Adam's apple moved slightly, and he couldn't help swallowing his saliva.
Vivi slowly closed her eyes, her pretty face flushed, her heartbeat accelerated, and her breathing became rapid.
Seeing this, Luo Te slowly leaned down. His face was getting closer and closer to Vivi. His breath hit her face, like high-temperature steam steaming her red. Until their lips touched gently together. Instantly, Vivi seemed to be hit by a strong electric current, and her whole body became soft and weak, and even her fingers could not move. As time went by, she gradually adapted to this intimate contact and began to respond slowly. After a long time, the two separated. Luo Te looked at the lovely girl in front of him with tenderness. And Vivi looked around with a blushing face. Luo Te gently scratched her nose. It's okay. I have isolated it with an electromagnetic barrier. No one can see it.
Hearing this, Vivi shyly buried her head in Luo Te's chest again.
Luo Te hugged Vivi's delicate body tightly, and his hands slowly climbed up her breasts. Vivi's delicate body trembled, and her rapid breathing brought a hot breath to Luo Te's chest, raising his body temperature by 1 degree. Her body gradually collapsed in Luo Te's arms, until Luo Te's hand was about to reach the restricted area. She grabbed him. It's not convenient recently. After saying that, he stood up a little shyly. Lord Luo Te, I'm going to go back and rest first. Good night. After saying that, he ran away like escaping. Luo Te looked at the back figure running away in a hurry, and the corners of his mouth raised a little arc. He
exhaled a long breath of hot air and looked up at the crescent moon. In his previous life, he was otaku. Although he had never been in love, it did not prevent him from having many wives in the second dimension.
After crossing over, he got what he wanted. Now there are so many women, each of whom loves him deeply, and he loves them in the same way. Happiness knocked on the door. The sound was deafening. Cobra looked at Vivi, who suddenly appeared in the corner of the wall, and breathed a sigh of relief quietly. As his daughter, Cobra certainly cares about Vivi's happiness very much.
Every time Luo Te made the headlines, Vivi always behaved very actively.
He also kept an eye on Luo Te's news. Even the boudoir was full of Luo Te's bounty orders and photos. Cobra saw it several times, and he naturally knew that his daughter might have fallen deeply in love with Luo Te. In fact, Vivi has always been very rational, but she seems to be unusually firm in love. However, considering Luo Te's identity and the several beautiful women around her, any father hopes that his daughter can get all the love. He was also a little worried, afraid that Luo Te's love would be divided by everyone, and there would be much less for his daughter. So he went to Luo Te alone in the afternoon. Fortunately, Not's answer made him very satisfied. He didn't stop it, and could only believe that Not would handle these relationships well. The light was scattered on a big bed through the window.
I can't do it. You go find Vivi. Nami was limp all over, and her breathing was quite rapid.
She had already experienced Luo Te's fighting power, which was completely a crushing level. Luo Te did not answer, but gently rubbed Nami's breasts. Nami, do you think I am unfaithful? Nami held Luo Te's dishonest hand and said in a daze, why do you ask this question? I love you, and I also love Robin, Hancock, Linger, and Vivi. Each of you is an indispensable woman in my heart. Nami shook her head. No, we love you, and we don't care how many women you have, as long as you have us in your heart. Luo Te kissed Nami gently on the lips and held him tightly in his arms. Nami pressed against Luo Te, and her lower abdomen could clearly feel the hardness of little Luo Te. Well, if it really doesn't work, can I use my mouth?
Chapter 171. Return to Taoyuan. HP Bao Xing Core I7 Zhou Mian Dian Now S01 PF 4003 HK. 3 Nian Shang Men Wei Shu Fu Wu D14 Dai Intel Core i7 Chu Li Chi Windows 11 Jia Yong Ban.
Ah, Nami, you are so amazing. Vivi stood on the edge of the island, looking at the sea that was getting farther and farther away, and was full of praise for Nami's ability. Unlike other women, she was not afraid of this, but was very excited. After Luo Te came to Alabasta for the first time and changed the climate of Alabasta, he had already told Cobra that if the citizens allowed it, they could move to his territory at that time. Cobra and Vivi agreed at that time, and they promised Luo Te that the citizens would not refuse and would be quite supportive. It was just that Luo Te did not have any land in New World at that time. But they always remembered this promise and looked forward to moving to Luo Te's territory one day. After Luo Te's ideas were spread, the living conditions of all citizens were greatly improved. So every citizen couldn't wait to move to Luo Te's territory. Now they finally got what they wanted. Nami shook her head. It's nothing, this is my ability. Luo Te also asked on the side, are you not tired, Nami? The area of this island is more than 5 times that of the previous islands. Even when he separated the island from the seabed, he spent dozens of times more force than before. So Luo Te's worry is not unreasonable. Nami clenched her pink fists when she heard this. It's not as big as the merged Sky Island. We didn't spend much effort when we moved Sky Island to New World before. Indeed, the island cloud she needed to lift the entire sand country was dozens of times more than before.
But it only took some physical strength to create the island cloud.
Hearing Nami say this, Luo Te remembered that this matter did happen. It seems that he was too concerned. Hey, Nami, are there a lot of peaches in Taoyuan? Vivi asked excitedly, holding Nami's hand. Ah, Nami didn't react for a while. Luo Te touched Vivi's head and responded with a smile. Ha ha ha, there are no peach trees now, you can plant a lot if you want. Vivi tilted her head curiously, since there are no peach trees, why is it called Taoyuan? She knew that the name of every place or country must have its origin, and it was not given casually. Since Luo Te named his territory Taoyuan, there must be a purpose. Luo Te began to explain to Vivi, where I live, there is a poet named Dao Yuanming. He wrote a story. Oh, so this is Taoyuan? After listening to Luo Te's explanation, Vivi nodded with some understanding. She naturally knew Luo Te's dream, so she knew that Luo Te's intention to name his territory Taoyuan was self-evident. In this era of the survival of the fittest and war, to establish Taoyuan, it is natural to establish a transcendent capital in this world. Not affected by war, no oppression, no power, no disputes. For a moment, stars lit up in Vivi's eyes again, and her admiration for Luo Te has reached an unprecedented level.
Seeing Vivi like this, Nami couldn't help but curl up the corners of her mouth.
She remembered that after her partners and the senior leaders of Taoyuan heard Luo Te's story, they all agreed to name the territory Taoyuan. Similarly, judging from the current development, this Taoyuan can indeed become the Taoyuan described by Dao Yuanming. After more than 2 days of sailing, Alabasta and Durader were slowly placed next to the main island of Longan. Vivi, Cobra, Ikalem, and Yaka from Alabasta, and Wumungbelu and the princess from Durader followed Luo Te to the center of the main island. Wow, is this Taoyuan? Looking at the magnificent city scale in front of them, Vivi was stunned. All the buildings were built on the mountain, but in an orderly manner. There were various green plants in between, and the harmony between man and nature was fully reflected. The avenues were like spider webs, making the traffic in the entire city extremely convenient. Not only Vivi, but everyone was shocked. They had never seen such a harmonious and peculiar city. King. Welcome my king. Ah, Lord Luo Te, Lord Luo Te, I want to give birth to a baby for you. Lord Luo Te, do you remember me? When you gave a speech last time, I asked you for an autograph. All the citizens along the way greeted Luo Te enthusiastically.
There were so many people that Luo Te could only nod in response.
Seeing this situation, Wumungbelu and the princess finally put down the big stone in their hearts. Being able to build a country so prosperous without the slightest leader's heirs. Originally, they only hoped that Luo Te would exploit them a little less. And as of now, it has far exceeded their expectations.
There will be no safety hazards in living in such a country.
Similarly, the people will be able to live and work in peace. They never dreamed that there was such a perfect place in the world. For a while, they were full of hope for the future. At this moment, several beautiful figures attacked Luo Te. My dear husband, welcome back. As the words fell, Hancock threw himself directly into Luo Te's arms.
Robin and Ling were standing beside him. Due to the large number of people around, the two did not make such intimate movements to Luo Te like Hancock.
But their faces were also filled with lovesickness. Okay, I'm back, right? Luo Te gently scratched Hancock's nose and slowly put her down. I guess this is Princess Vivi? Hancock stretched out his hand in front of Vivi. Vivi also stretched out her hand and held Hancock's hand. Well, Sister Hancock, I am Nefertari Vivi, the Princess of Alabasta. Yeah, my dear husband didn't bully you, did he? Hearing Hancock's words, Vivi smiled and shook her head. No, my dear Luo Te treats me very well.
That's good. If my husband bullies you, just tell me. Hancock raised his pink fist.
Luo Te spread his hands helplessly, indicating that he was innocent. Then Vivi looked at Linger again. Sister Linger, I've heard of you for a long time. Linger took Vivi's arm. Vivi, what do you want to eat? I'll make it for you later. Vivi tilted her head. I want to eat roast duck. Linger nodded. Okay, I'll make roast duck, braised duck, and boiled duck for you. Gah! Kalu covered his duck mouth with his wings and slowly hid behind Ekolem. Vivi nodded. Thank you, Sister Linger. Then she looked at Robin. Sister Robin, long time no see. Robin laughed and responded. Long time no see, Miss Wednesday.
Vivi laughed when she heard it. Ha ha ha, come to think of it, we were colleagues at that time.
Robin also laughed. Seeing this, Ekolem looked worried and whispered in Cobra's ear, My Lord King, this. Cobra shook his head. Don't worry, it's okay, he was relieved. Seeing this scene, Wumongbelu couldn't help laughing, but didn't dare to say anything, so he could only pretend not to see it. Just then a voice came. Ha ha ha, Master Luo Te, I finally see you. Chapter 172. Tezulo HP Slim Desktop S01PF 3003 HK Dian Now Dao Zhuang HPHK 5,299 Hong Kong dollars D13 Dai Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Wind. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw two figures slowly walking towards this side. One of them was naturally Klo. When Luo Te moved his eyes to the man next to him, he was a little surprised.
The man next to Klo had gray-green hair, combed back into a back hair, a pink shirt and pants, and a purple sunglasses on his head.
Isn't this Guild Tesoro? Why did he come to Taoyuan? The sentence just now was obviously said by him, Lord Luo Te? For a moment, Luo Te had a big question mark about the intention of Tesoro appearing in Taoyuan. Seeing that Luo Te had guests, everyone said goodbye and returned to their own countries. Vivi went shopping in Longan under the leadership of Hancock and others. Klo was also very busy. Since Luo Te had returned, there was no need for him to stay with Tesoro. Luo Te looked at the man in front of him. If I remember correctly, you should be Guild Tesoro, the king of the Golden City, right?
Tesoro had just looked at Luo Te secretly. Just standing there, he was like a dormant beast.
He didn't dare to look at him at all, as if he would pounce on him in the next second. This is the strongest man in the world. Tesoro didn't reply, but just stretched out his hand and pressed it to the ground. Suddenly, golden powder poured out from the ground and gathered in his hand, turning into a golden fist. As he wrapped armament hockey around it, the fist gradually became extremely black. Golden right fist. As soon as the voice fell, Tesoro's fist appeared in front of Luo Te. Snap! Luo Te had already foreseen this scene, and raised his hand to grab this extremely powerful punch. No matter how much force Tesoro added, he couldn't move forward, as if he was hitting heavy steel. Tesoro was not surprised that Luo Te could catch this move, but he didn't expect Luo Te to be so careless. Luo Te raised his hand and smashed Tesoro to the ground. Bang! Cough cough cough. Pa pa pa, ha 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 ha. You are indeed the strongest man, your strength is really outrageous. Tesoro crawled out of the crack in the ground, looking very embarrassed, without the elegance of a big star. Luo Te raised his eyebrows. He could feel that Tesoro did not have any hostility. So he held back. Otherwise, Tesoro would not be able to get up at this time. What are you doing in Taoyuan? You don't just want to get beaten up, do you? Tesoro patted the dust on his clothes, his face full of smiles. Ha 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 ha, of course not. I want to talk to you about cooperation. Cooperation? However, looking at Tesoro's expression, Luo Te clearly sensed that he was not talking casually.
Tell me. As soon as the voice fell, Luo Te took the lead and walked forward, and Tesoro followed him.
I wonder what Mr. Luo Te thinks of world government. Hearing this, Luo Te paused and turned to look at Tesoro, although he didn't know what he meant by asking this question. However, he planned to speak out his true thoughts and talk about Tesoro's attitude. World government? It's just a rubbish organization that thinks it is superior and built by exploiting the people. Tesoro Vivi was stunned. Clap clap clap. He couldn't help but applaud, and then laughed. Ha ha ha, this description is really appropriate. Luo Te based on Tesoro's words. Before the combination, he said that he wanted to cooperate with him.
Then Tesoro's intention is self-evident. I think he wants to cooperate with him to overthrow the world government. Tesoro paused and asked again. Then I don't know what Mr. Luo Te thinks of the celestial dragon species.
Haha, who in this world doesn't know what celestial dragons are? They're just a group of pigs. Getting Luo Te's answer, Tesoro was in a good mood, knowing that his expectations of Luo Te were not disappointed. If I guess correctly, Mr. Luo Te should want to overthrow the world government, right? Luo Te laughed. Is my purpose so obvious? Yes, this world is too absurd, it's time to change it. He did not hide it. First, he knew that Tesoro could not be a spy of the world government.
Second, in the face of absolute strength, all tricks will be vulnerable. Since I have got Mr.
Luo Te's answer, I want to join Mr. Luo Te's team. Tesoro turned and looked at Luo Te with a serious face. What's the situation? Seeing Luo Te's puzzled expression, Tesoro knew that he must be full of confusion, and said, You must be confused. The king of the world's first entertainment city authorized by the world government wants to rebel against the world government. Luo Te was indeed a little confused, but he remembered that Guild Tesoro was for money. Since he has already controlled 20% of the Baileys circulating in this world with the permission of the world government, he should enjoy it. Oh, can you tell me your reason? Tesoro walked forward slowly. Mr. Luo Te, let me tell you about my life. When I was a child, my father was a gambler. He squandered all the family money and owed a lot of debts. One day he died of illness, leaving a broken family to me and my mother. I have loved singing since I was a child, but my mother did not support me and even hated my singing. There was no money at home, so I chose to steal money and later learned to gamble. He sneered and continued. When I was 16 years old, I was caught by human traffickers because I lost in the casino. I also met Stella in the human trafficking market. She is also the only woman in the world who thinks I sing well and likes my singing. So I worked hard to make money and quit gambling, just to let her be free. After more than 2 years of work, I finally raised the money for redemption. At that time, celestial dragons came. Tesolo's eyes were full of bloodshot when he said this. Originally, I needed to work hard for 3 years to get the money for redemption, but celestial dragons took it out easily. By Stella away. I was angry towards celestial dragons opened fire but was caught. When she was taken away, she smiled and said to me that she was very happy because of my existence. At this point, Tezulo burst into tears. It can be seen that after so many years, Stella still occupies an unshakable position in his heart. He continued. Later, I became a slave of celestial dragons and was taken to Marijoy, living a life without freedom. Without the permission of the master, I couldn't even laugh. So at that time, I thought that celestial dragons could do anything because they had money. One day, I heard the news of Stella's death. At this point, he clenched his fists and punched his chest one by one. He hated himself for being powerless and unable to protect his beloved woman. I think if I had money, I would not have let the tragedy happen. Since then, I have become more obsessed with money. Because I am still a slave of celestial dragons, I can't do anything. Just when I thought I would be a slave for the rest of my life. A fishman climbed up the red line and freed many slaves, and I was saved. Then, by chance, I got the golden gold fruit. I worked hard to develop my own power and established Grand Tesoro with my companions. He stretched out his hand, and the gold powder gradually gathered in his hand, forming the shape of a gold ingot. Money, which I hated the most, has given me omnipotent power. Not only can I buy what I want, I can even use money to mobilize part of the power of the world government. I will use the power of money to make those celestial dragons kneel at my feet. However, so far, I have not succeeded in making any celestial dragon kneel. Luo Te sighed, and was very sympathetic to his experience. The more I came into contact with the world government, the more I found them to be unfathomable, and I could only bury my hatred deep in my heart. Thank God, at this time there appeared a person who dared to challenge the world government. Chapter 173. The mysterious boat HP 15.6 Kunbaiji Busheng Dian now 15's FQ 5057 TU. HPHK. 5 Hong Kong dollars, 499 D12 Dai Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows. Tezulo said, so I want to join Taoyuan. Luo Te tilted his head and looked at the somewhat ferocious man. Are you sure? After you join Taoyuan, your golden city may no longer be recognized by the world government in New World. Tezulo shook his head. As long as I can avenge Stella, let alone the golden city, I won't blink an eye even if it takes my life. Damn, this man has guts. You still have to think clearly about this. Once the bow is shot, there is no turning back. Luo Te did not refuse. In the original work, Tezulo has a very twisted personality and does not show much hatred for the world government. He did not believe that Tezulo joined Taoyuan just because he saw him attacking celestial dragons. After all, in the past 800 years, many pirates have rebelled against the world government, but no one has succeeded. And the strength shown by Luo Te at present has not reached the level of directly confronting the world government. So he just hopes that Tezulo will think clearly. Sometimes a wrong decision may lead to eternal damnation. Do you think I have been very happy for so many years? After all, I control 20% of the floating Bailey in this world. Luo Te did not answer. In the original book, he only knew that Tezulo liked the scene where the guests knelt for money, and called it the best performance. Tezulo explained. On the one hand, I just want to improve my strength. On the other hand, if I want to find a partner, I can also have a bigger bargaining chip. In fact, the ultimate goal is to fight against the world government. Luo Te said. Not only do you think the world government is unfathomable, but even I don't have much confidence. Tezulo shook his head. No, I dare say that if there is anyone in this world who can overthrow the world government, that person must be Mr. Luo Te. Then he added,
Even the revolutionary army can't do it.
Why does Luo Te feel that this Taizuolo has a blind trust in himself, even more than himself? Mr. Klo took me around Taoyuan for half a day, although I only saw a small part of Longan. But I have seen what this world should be like, so I think joining Taoyuan should be the right decision. Originally, Golden City was also within his recruitment scope. Fighting against the world government is not just a matter of strength. Strength may account for 50%, and the economy accounts for the majority of the remaining 50%.
And the only one with this economic strength in New World is Golden City.
Okay, then let's sit down and discuss the following cooperation matters in detail. New World. 2 figures appeared on all the islands of Wano-kuni and all the big screens of Wano-kuni, naturally Big Mom and Kaido. Big Mom. We Big Mom Pirates and Beasts Pirates have decided. Kaido and Big Mom. Form an alliance. What, for a moment, whether it was the members of the Big Mom Pirates or the members of the Beasts Pirates, they were all surprised. They never thought that the 2 most important pirate groups in the world would form an alliance at this moment. At this time in Wano-kuni Cake City. Mom, are you serious? Katakuri looked at Big Mom with an unbelievable look and asked.
Similarly, Quinn also asked with a very unbelievable look, Governor, are you serious?
In his cognition, Big Mom had been defeated by Luo Te and removed from the 4 emperors. If she joined the Beasts Pirates, it would be okay, but if she wanted to form an alliance, she would not be qualified. Big Mom and Kaido did not answer the questions of their subordinates, but looked at each other. Big Mom picked up the wine bowl, and Kaido held the wine gourd and the 2 clinked them together. They said in unison, let's take down this world together first. Then they each raised their heads and drank a sip of wine. At this time, whether it was the Big Mom Pirates or the members of the Beasts Pirates, they all understood that the alliance was a fait accompli.
They all clinked their glasses at once. You know, the 2 pirate groups were enemies before, and there were constant small frictions on weekdays.
They used to fight to the death, but now they sat together happily. The scene was like a big family banquet. This also perfectly illustrates that there are no eternal enemies or eternal friends in this world. The only thing that is eternal is interests. As the 2 parties in the alliance, Big Mom and Kaido actually know it well. Originally, the 2 were not people who valued friendship, and the alliance between the 2 was just for their own interests. It was just because they had a common enemy now, that's all. If the 2 really took over this world, they would immediately turn against each other and fight each other at that moment.
Big Mom waved her hand. Mom, little ones, bring out all the cakes. Today is not only the rebirth day of Cake City, but also the anniversary of the alliance between the 2 pirate groups.
However, when she said this, there was still cream on the corners of her mouth, and she didn't look like a 4 emperors at all. She was like a child who weighed only more than 20 tons. Kaido was drunk at this time and looked very happy. At this time, a gray boat was heading towards the direction of Wanguo. There were 2 men and 1 woman standing on the boat, all wearing white clothes and white masks, and their white cloaks were whistling in the sea breeze. Wayne, how long will it take us to Cake Island? The man standing at the bow said so. Cuttings, can't you see for yourself? I'm not a navigator.
Another man on the deck replied. Cuttings frowned, turned around and shouted angrily. Wayne, you should know that I am the captain of this operation. Put away your temper.
Cuttings, what qualifications do you have to be our captain? You just sent your wife to. Wayne and Cuttings didn't get along. This time, 5 elders arranged for the 2 to act together, and also designated Cuttings as the captain of the 3-person team. Wayne was indeed dissatisfied. In terms of strength, he thought he was stronger than Cuttings, and in terms of IQ, he was not inferior. Cuttings stretched out his hands, and blood-red hair began to grow on them. Since you are dissatisfied, I will use my strength to convince you. Wayne turned into a giant rhino after hearing this. Then let's see whether the ancient ape is stronger or my ancient rhino is stronger. At this time, the woman sitting quietly beside him said, you 2 should be quiet. If there is any grudge, wait until the mission is completed to resolve it. Hearing this, Cuttings snorted and turned back into human form. For the sake of Chimoji, I won't bother with you. After saying that, Wayne also turned back into human form. As the gray boat got closer and closer to Cake Island, many children of Big Mom appeared around. Who are you? Look at their clothes, they don't look like members of our Big Mom pirates. What are you doing? Get lost, Toto Land. Wayne was already angry, and when he heard the voices around him, how could he bear it? Shave. The whole person disappeared. In just a few breaths, he returned to the boat. And the Big Mom pirates on the shore screamed and fell in a pool of blood.
Seeing this, Chimoji and Cuttings didn't say anything. Except for the target person, the life and death of others were not important.
Chapter 174. World Government Agent meets Big Mom. HP 15.6 Kun Bai Ji Bu Xing Dian Now 15's FQ 5057 TU. HPHK. 5 Hong Kong dollars. 499 D12 Die Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows. New World, Taoyuan. The huge conference room in the capital of Shaguo, Shandora. It was full of people at this time. Except Luo Te, Robin and Klo, they were all leaders of many countries and islands. Of course, there were also 3 newly joined Golden Island. Luo Te sat in the main seat, looking at the people in the conference room, a little sighing. He didn't expect that in just over a year, he had grown from a two-man team to such a big family.
Now our Taoyuan has been on the right track and developed steadily. All this is inseparable from everyone's efforts.
Hearing Luo Te's words, everyone became humble. No, we're just doing our own things. This is because Lord Luo Te's ideas are too advanced. Among them, the ones who have paid the most are the people in Luo Te's pirate group. Lord Luo Te is too modest. You're the one who is the most tired. Luo Te listened to these rainbow farts, and he was not cold.
He waved his hand and said, in fact, we are not doing that well.
I believe that your countries will have their own customs. Some kingdoms have different customs but are next to each other.
I am sorry for your inconvenience. After saying that, Luo Te bowed to everyone.
Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Although they are all leaders of a country or an island, they all belong to Taoyuan now. And Luo Te, as the lord of Taoyuan, is naturally their immediate superior. Apart from this, Luo Te is also the strongest pirate and the strongest man in the world. He actually bowed to them. This scene shocked Cobra, Umonbelu and Tesoro the most. They were also glad for their decision to join Taoyuan. With such a leader who is not arrogant, why should we worry that Taoyuan will not prosper? Then Luo Te sat down. There should be many people who don't know the purpose of my establishment of Taoyuan. After hearing Luo Te's words, most people looked at Luo Te with admiration, and naturally some people looked confused.
All these expressions fell into Luo Te's eyes. He slowly said, Taoyuan is my territory, and I am a pirate, and I am the pirate that the world government has identified as the most threatening.
Even if we put aside this relationship, Taoyuan is mostly a group of countries that have left the jurisdiction of the world government. I believe everyone knows what I mean by this sentence. As he said this, he cast his eyes on the faces of the people. He believed that even if he did not point it out, everyone would know it clearly. However, there was no fear on the faces of the people, and they all looked determined. This was a little beyond Luo Te's expectations. He originally thought that some people would choose to retreat because of fear of the world government. But it didn't happen. We are completely opposite to the world government. They will definitely not allow us to become strong. So only one of Taoyuan and the world government can exist. Tesoro laughed loudly at the side. Ha ha ha, the world government is just a coward. Gonful said, I don't know what the world government is. If anyone dares to harm our Taoyuan, ask the gun in my hand first. Every time I attend the World Summit, I know the disgusting things about the world government, so I support Luo Te, Cobra said. He remembered that the meeting was full of guys who would sacrifice the lives of civilians for their own interests. And every time his proposal would be drowned in the condemnation of the crowd. Even without Luo Te, he might have left the world government. The others also expressed their support. King, when do we start the war? A king, Lakebo, stood up and asked, with a look of fighting spirit on his face. As a military general, he was not afraid of fighting at all. Luo Te felt a little funny. Obviously, they didn't know the horror of the world government. He raised his hand and pressed it. Don't worry, world government is not as simple as you think. They are extremely powerful, and I dare not say that I can beat some of them, so we have to take a long-term view. Mom, there are 3 people outside who broke in, we can't stop them. What? After hearing her daughter's report, Big Mom's eyes widened with anger, and she felt that the fermented bean curd cake in her hand was not fragrant anymore. Who? So bold. Now was a happy moment for the 2 pirate groups to celebrate their alliance, but I didn't expect someone to dare to make trouble. No need to look for it, we came in by ourselves. As the voice came, 3 white figures appeared at the gate of Cake City. Big Mom felt it slightly, and she could clearly feel that the hands of the 3 people were stained with undissipated soul power. Obviously, they were killing in Wanguo, a group of kids who dare not show their true faces. After saying that, she stepped on the sofa under her and broke it, and appeared in front of the 3 people. She raised her hand and punched the man in the middle. Kudens's sight shot out through the hole in the mask, full of threatening fierceness. His right hand gradually grew hair and turned into an orangutan arm, and he punched forward. The 2 fists met, without making any sound, but the powerful shock wave spread out to the surroundings with the 2 people as the center. Suddenly the whole Cake City shook, and cracks appeared on the wall. Seeing that the whole Cake City was about to collapse, everyone ran out. Feeling the power from the fist of the white-clothed masked man in front of her, Big Mom was a little surprised. It was obvious that this person was very strong. Retracting his fist, the 2 took a few steps back. Big Mom looked up and down at the white-clothed man in front of her, and then sensed the other 2 masked men. She was secretly shocked. Who are these 3 people? They are so powerful, even a little stronger than Katakuri. They don't look like well-known pirates. Where did they come from? Mom, you are quite strong. Who are you? What are you doing in Cake Island? Cuttings frowned and said, we are agents of the world government. What? People from the world government? Big Mom's eyes widened when she heard this. What are people from the world government doing in Wanguo? You should know that pirates are enemies of the world government, not to mention the 4 emperors. Although these 3 people from the world government are quite strong. But now Wan Guo has 4 emperors and several people at the level of vice-emperors. It is not difficult to keep these 3 people, Wayne said, 2 losers, we're here to help you. Although his expression could not be seen, the look in his eyes from the mask showed that he was full of contempt. What? Hearing this, Big Mom was like a puppy whose tail was stepped on. Just when she was about to get angry, the woman in white next to her said, we're here to cooperate with you. It hurts. Kaido pushed away a broken wall that was pressing on him and staggered out. Who are you? He asked when he saw the 3 masked men. The 3 turned to look at Kaido, their eyes all fixed. It seemed that Kaido and Big Mom had really formed an alliance. The woman in white said, let's talk about cooperation. Cooperation? Kaido and Big Mom looked confused. The woman in white explained, because we have a common enemy. Chapter 175. Each with his own agenda. HP Pavilion X 361 4 Kun Hei Yi Bai Ji Bu Xing Dian Now 14 EK 1027 TU Yin Se HPHK 8,999 Hong Kong dollars D13 Dai Intel Core. Common enemy? Big Mom stared at the woman in white and asked. Chi-Moji nodded. I know your biggest enemy right now is Luo Te. Before Chi-Moji finished speaking, Kaido interrupted. What a joke, when did Luo Te become our biggest enemy? Big Mom also said at this time, little girl, our biggest enemy of pirates should be your world government.
The woman in white snorted contemptuously when she heard this. HMPH, you two can't beat Luo Te together, what are you talking about?
What did you say? Big Mom was furious when she heard this. This was simply rubbing salt on her wounds. If she hadn't spent a lot of soul power on her resurrection, how could she have lost to Luo Te? Now she has become a joke in the entire pirate world. Wayne said, did we say it wrong? Put away your arrogant mentality. What? I think you are tired of living. Kaido took the mace and walked towards Wayne in a crooked manner. Wayne pursed his lips and transformed into a human beast state. Seeing this, Chi-Moji stretched out his hand to stop him and then said to Kaido. I know you must hate Luo Te now, and he must be your #1 enemy.
Seeing that Big Mom and Kaido were about to get angry, she said, we world government now also regard Luo Te as a thorn in our side.
The threat level is even greater than that of the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Dragon. In fact, in the eyes of the world government, Luo Te is not as threatening as Dragon, but who told them that they can't find Dragon's location. Since we now have a common enemy, why don't we get rid of him together? Big Mom was really angry when she heard this. From Chi-Moji's tone, it was obvious that they were contemptuous and felt that they did not have the strength to deal with Luo Te. She looked a little unkind. Get out, don't let me see you again. Wayne appeared in front of Big Mom with a shave and punched her on the chin. With a bang, Big Mom's fat body was directly knocked away. Kaido, seeing this, raised his mace and gathered Haki to smash towards Wayne and the other 2. Cuttings saw this and transformed into a human beast form, and at the same time drew out his saber to meet Kaido's mace. Bang! As the mace and the blade met, black lightning raged. Cuttings increased his strength, and Kaido staggered back several steps under this force, and then sat on the ground. At this time, he was 1/3 sober. Cuttings put away the knife and put it back into the sheath. Are you a little sober now? Can you calm down and have a good talk? Kaido and Big Mom looked at each other and nodded, then tell me about your plan. Wayne saw that Big Mom had calmed down, and he also turned back to normal. Outside the Cake City. Parasperoni-san, will there be any danger for Mom and the others to stay alone in the city? Sha Luo Te Flampy looked worried.
Perospero turned his tongue and said confidently, don't worry, there are 4 emperors inside.
We don't need to care about what those 3 people do, Paraspero. He was not worried at all. He could sense that the 3 white-clothed men were powerful. But they were still a little behind his mother and Kaido. Ha ha ha, it's okay. As an ally, Lord Kaido will protect your captain. Quinn laughed loudly, looking very generous. But his tone was obviously full of trust in Kaido and contempt for Big Mom. What, fatty? Cracker was upset when he heard that. How could he not hear what Quinn meant? Do you want to fight? You don't accept it? You are just a bunch of losers. Quinn took the cigar out of his mouth and blew out a smoke ring. Not only Cracker couldn't help it, but the rest of the Big Mom pirates also stood up. The 2 groups were about to fight. A handsome man with a serious and steady face said to stop them. Stop it, we are allies now. He had white hair, brown skin and black wings, and a tattoo around his left eye. Brother Jin. The members of the Beast's pirates fell silent when they saw Jin said so.
Katakuri also spoke at this time. Sit down quietly, those 3 white-clothed men won't do anything stupid. When everyone saw that the vice-captains of the 2 pirate groups said so, they didn't dare to do anything even if they were angry. The group that was originally toasting each other was now divided into 2 factions and stood on both sides.
In the Cake City, Kaido and his friends sat on the ground. You said that your world government wants to cooperate with us to defeat Luo Te? Big Mom looked at the 3 people in front of him and asked. Cuttings nodded. Of course it's true. If we cooperate to defeat Luo Te, the title will be given to you directly. Wayne and Zimoji sat aside and didn't say anything. Since Cuttings was the team leader of this operation, they were also happy to be idle. However, they looked at Big Mom and Kaido with disgust. After all, they were agents of the high and mighty world government. In their eyes, pirates were just a group of hooligans who could not be on the stage at all.
They might have some strength, but they were still quite different from the world government.
They were quite dissatisfied with the world government sending them to cooperate with the pirates this time. They thought that any one of the 3 Luo Te's would be enough, so why did they need to cooperate with 2 bugs? Cuttings had the same idea. Big Mom and Kaido are not fools, so they can naturally feel the arrogance from these 3 people. They didn't show anything. They guessed that the world government came to them for cooperation this time. It should be more than just wanting to defeat Luo Te together. It is very likely that they will take this opportunity to move the power of the world government into the new world.
If then, the entire new world will no longer be the world of the 4 emperors.
They are quite clear about this. So the 2 of them are now pretending to be friendly with the world government agents. The main purpose is to let these people and the Luo Te pirates fight each other to a loss, and then reap the benefits.
No problem, I agree. Big Mom spoke first. After that, she grabbed the cake that fell on the ground and stuffed it into her mouth, and her mouth was full of cream. Wow, since Linlin has no objection, then I agree too. Kaido took a sip of wine and replied with a drunken look. His face was red, and he looked as innocent as a child.
Seeing the 2 4 emperors like this, the disgust in the hearts of the 3 Cuttings deepened. However, since they are partners, they still have to suppress their disgust and continue to discuss the details of the action. Wayne patted his thigh and said, I think we can just do it directly. There is no need for any plan. Why are you patting your thigh? Why are you patting mine? Shimoji slapped Wayne to the ground. Wayne got up and explained awkwardly. Mistake.